Or shot fire, officer down, shot fire, officer down. Got a city officer down, shot fire.
223, be advised, we have a visual on enemy paratroopers at grid Papa uniforms.
Welcome to the Resilient Warrior Nation, a podcast dedicated to inspiring hope and healing for first responders, military veterans, and anyone facing PTSD and trauma. Hey guys, welcome to another podcast episode of the Resilient Warrior Nation. I'm your host, Mike Morgan, and as usual, I am pumped for my next guest. First, as usual, I like to explain why I wear the shirt. This is not a proclamation. Unafraid is the name of a company owned by a man named Eddie Penny. And as I sat down and watched a podcast episode of the Sean Ryan Show in the spring of 23, I had no idea that Eddie Penny was about to change the entire trajectory of my life. During the course of that show, Eddie was recounting the Extortion 17 incident in which a Chinook was shot down in Afghanistan, killing all 38 souls aboard, including 17 SEALs. It was their largest loss of life ever in one event, and including the dead was Jason Workman, Eddie's best friend. As Eddie told the story of escorting Jason's body back first to his hometown in Utah and then to his final resting place in Arlington National Cemetery, he was upset. He was crying, rightly so. I'm a 30-year medically retired police officer, and as Eddie was telling that story, I simultaneously began thinking about a call that I had buried that I had had 5 years before, involving a 2-year-old found floating in a pool, beautiful little girl named Dana Sikorsky. So as Eddie's telling this story, I now know subconsciously I was given permission to cry, and I lost it. I started crying like a baby. I had been retired at this point just about a year, and shortly after retirement, I had been experiencing bouts of depression, anger, rage, just general unhappiness, and I was really not sure of the origination. I'm pretty self-aware. I knew I wasn't myself, but I didn't know what was causing it. As I'm crying and literally saying to myself, what the fuck is happening to me right now? I kind of put two and two together rather quickly and realized I had suffered some sort of PTSD in my career. I mistakenly believed that PTSD was only caused by seeing your brother or sister next to you get killed. Mine was caused by being inside the most devastatingly intimate moments of other people's lives for 30 years. So I knew I needed help. Didn't want to be this ornery guy hating everyone and everything. Wasn't sure how I was going to go about it. Didn't think therapy was it for me. Didn't think I'd be able to talk to a man and woman sitting behind a desk, tell them the things I've done and seen, and they were going to be able to help me. So in Sean Ryan's podcast and other podcasts, I had seen special force operators, mostly, coming back from war, self-professed broken men, and they were detailing their consequent healing journeys using psychedelics. I dismissed it at first, didn't think it was for me. I smoked weed in high school. That was the extent of my drug usage. First off, they're not drugs. They're plant-based medicines. They've been used for thousands of years. So I really started paying attention at this point, started doing research. Just felt like ayahuasca was calling me. And after my wife and I moved down to South Florida at the end of December of 23, we went to a place called Soul Quest Ayahuasca Church the first week of March 24. Literally transformed my life over the course of a weekend. As I came out of my first journey, the universe was talking to me. I know it sounds weird, but as clearly as I'm talking to you, universe told me it had healed me. And that's not linear. I go through stuff every day, but for all intents and purposes, from the PTSD. It also told me that my life's purpose was to go forth and help other first responders and vets heal their PTSD and trauma issues. I said, okay, having no idea how I was going to implement it. One thing I decided to do was start a podcast to do for others what Sean Ryan's did for me. And in that, I bring on ordinary people who have done extraordinary things with their lives. My hope is that you men and women who are going through it right now will identify with them. You'll gain hope and inspiration and realize that there is nothing special about them, me, or us. We are all the same, but we raised our hand to get help and we've changed our lives. So I hope that you guys will do the same. Please, I'd like to introduce my next guest. Scott Michael Roessler is a retired U.S. Army Master Sergeant with 20 years of distinguished service in Army Special Operations. Throughout his career, he served with elite units such as the 1st Ranger Battalion and the 7th Special Forces Group, which is Green Berets, for those of you not that know, like I am. Over the course of 11 combat deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, Scott gained extensive experience operating under prolonged, high-stress combat conditions. His background provides a unique blend of tactical expertise and resilience developed in some of the most challenging environments in the world. Scott was a Cohort One participant in the Stanford University Ibogaine for PTSD Observational Study, a landmark clinical research effort published in 2024. The study examined the effects of Ibogaine on trauma-related symptomatology in U.S. Special Operations veterans, evaluating changes in psychological distress, cognitive performance, autonomic regulation, and overall functional well-being following treatment. His perspective integrates lived operational exposure with direct participation in structured clinical research, offering valuable insight into both the challenges faced by veterans and the potential for innovative therapeutic approaches. Scott, unbelievable to have you on, brother. Welcome to the show.
See if I can figure out how to. There we go.
There we go.
Thank you so much for your platform. I've been watching you for quite a while, and it's growing. It's growing pretty quickly. I'm a fellow Floridian up here in the Northwest region, not too far from you, but thanks for having me here, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak about my healing journey with you.
Absolutely, brother. My honor having you on here, and thank you for watching, and just those kind words from real guys like yourself mean everything to me. Tells me I'm in the right place, and literally, like I said before we started recording, hopefully we change one person's life. 10 would be fantastic, but I go for one person every podcast. So please let the audience know about you, where you grew up, how you grew up, how was your childhood, what kind of kid were you?
You got it. So I grew up in the Northwest. So I was born in Montana. I'm going to be turning 50 this year. So 1976, my mother gave birth. My parents divorced when I was pretty young, so I didn't live in Montana for too long. Grew up in Oregon for the most part, and single family, single mother with an older sister upbringing. They did a great job.
Okay.
And so I was keen on looking around to find out what types of male traits I wanted to, pick up. Best friend.
Scott, do you have a relationship with Dad?
Yeah,
I always
but
ask guys this specifically.
he was in California, and it was summer vacation. I'd go see him for a month, and then I'd go home back to my mom for the rest of the next year, essentially.
Okay.
So it was
not that much of an influence.
Not really.
Okay.
But growing up, he was there on summer vacations for the most part until about, I don't know, I think I was 12 or 13. I had a falling out with him and my stepmom, and I didn't go back for the rest of the, growing up. So
really?
I would see him from time to time. Yeah, we just had a falling out. And I was a mama's boy, so I wanted to stay with my mom.
Okay.
I couldn't figure out my place outside of the 30 days I got to hang out there in the summertime, so to speak.
Right.
So I was like, I'm done wasting my time there. I wanted to not waste my time. Let me take that back. Playing year-round sports, it was always either get a good camp in or go hang out in California with my dad for a month. But it was turning into not being as much of a enjoyment, I wasn't.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I was trying to prep for the next football season by doing the camp and putting, getting my street cred before the season kicks off. And I was always having to reprove it back, as the games start going on, and I would miss a few games for that. But anyways, so I grew up in Oregon, right outside of Portland, in a small town called Gresham, which is at the foothills of Mount Hood. It's real pretty.
Yeah, it sounds beautiful.
And we used to jump on the little Max train and cruise down to Portland. It used to be a really friendly, pedestrian-friendly kind of city until, the last 10 years or so. But they're starting to circle the wagons and fix things. So hopefully
all right, good.
Hopefully it'll be another good place to hang out.
Exactly.
But it isn't right now.
So throughout your, are you a studious child as well? You're doing well in sports, I assume.
My focus was sports. That kept me out of trouble. My grades.
Me too.
I was getting A's and B's and C's. I had a D here and there, but my mom would beg, plead, and threaten if I didn't get it up to at least a C. She kept the pressure on me. But I was a solid B student.
Yeah,
when I put in a good hard effort, I'd get an A, but I couldn't do that on all my classes.
Yep.
So
me too. I had to study when I studied when I had to study. A Dito would have brought an ass whooping, so there was no D's on there, man. My dad did not play, brother. Yeah. Woo! He took school serious more than I did.
The last thing I wanted to ever do was make my mom sad.
Ah, see, that's a beautiful thing. Whatever it is to motivate
my
you.
attention with that.
Yeah, that is a true mama's boy. So, hey, whatever it takes, man.
Whatever it takes.
Exactly. So, as you're going through now, how are you getting ideas of going in the military? Is this something you wanted as a young kid, or something kind of motivated you late teens?
So, my high school girlfriend, we only dated for off and on one of my years. I think it was my junior year. But her brother was a ranger. He'd come home from time to time and visit, and I would see him walking through the door. I'm like, oh my God, this dude's out of control. He's super stoic. Something's up. Whatever he's got,
Squared
I want to
away.
be that.
Yeah.
So I started researching what rangers were. Started going to the recruiter my senior year in high school with a couple buddies of mine that were thinking about going into the Marine Corps. And I got sucked into the HUA videos, the cool Ranger videos,
There you go.
Rangers in action. And they had me sitting there in front of an old computer. I'm watching this. Yeah, that's what I want to do. All right. Slide for life and parachuting and stuff.
Yep.
So the final memory I have of my mom and dad together, pretty much the only memory I have of them together, is sitting there with the recruiter signing the paperwork because I was 17. And I got talked into doing the delayed entry program so that I would go in with one little rank. I'd go up to PFC instead of E2 or something like that.
Okay.
So I think it was like $40.
Hey, big money back then, man.
But yeah, so they signed it, and then 6 days after I graduated, I was on a plane, Fort Benning, Georgia.
Damn.
Took off. There's zero chance for me to make my decision elsewhere
Yeah.
or change
Yeah,
my
there's
mind
no
or
escape.
whatever. So,
Yep.
and I loved it. I
And-
was stoked, ready to go.
Coming in sick shape.
Great shape. Got basic
Awesome.
honor graduated basic training.
Nice.
Just-
So basic had to be a piece of cake for a
Basic
guy like
was,
you.
yeah. If you go there
Right.
in great shape, if you go there in good shape, you're going to be just fine. And if you want
Yeah.
to be there, you're not doing it for other reasons.
Yeah. That's how the Atlanta PD Academy was for me, man. I wanted it to be harder, to be honest with you. I came in sick shape. Dude, we had a guy that couldn't do a push-up. I'm like, what? You're entering a field where your life could be on the line like that. You can't do a push-up, bro? This what an embarrassment.
Yeah, wrong place.
Yeah, I'm sure some of the stuff you saw with some of these recruits that you were with
Oh, it
was like mind-boggling.
There was 3 of them on suicide watch within the first week.
What?
Yeah,
Wow.
but they knew they were just trying to get out of the contract, so to speak. So they really made them pay for whatever their excuse was. If they're going to kill themselves and kill each other or whatever, so they got the boot laces taken out of their boots, so their boots were staying on strictly by duct tape.
Damn.
No belt, because you can hang yourself with that. So they
Yeah,
had to hold
absolutely.
their pants up everywhere. It was funny. But that was back in the 90s. You probably can't get away with that anymore.
Yeah, I'm sure.
As a matter of fact, they shamed one of them so much, he decided to continue on and
Hey.
just stay in. the
That's great,
other
bro.
2 hit the streets.
Peer pressure was so great. He's like, fucking, I'll just stay
Yeah,
in the
I'm just gonna
military.
serve my country.
That's awesome. I don't know if you're even more of a weak guy at that point, or
Not
maybe
sure
you
where you're
showed a
gonna
little
put
bit
him.
of fortitude at that point.
Yeah,
Oh, that's great.
that's funny.
So once you get done with basic, what's your route? Do you go right into?
Right after basic,
pipeline?
you go into another phase of training until you're completely out of that. It's advanced infantry training, whatever my background was going to be. But I was going to be, if I passed each gate, I would get guaranteed a shot at Ranger Battalion. So it's an 11 X-ray contract. So after basic training in AIT, I did airborne school, which was 3 weeks learning how to jump out of a plane.
That's just static, right?
Correct.
Piece of cake, right?
Just
For you?
count to 4 and just count to 4.
Yeah,
Because you don't really know what the hell you're doing until 100 jumps later.
right.
And it's just
And is
you're not going to
Halo
steer this
school?
thing. You're not going to Halo school anytime soon.
I mean, that's got to be like the greatest thing, right? When you get to Halo school.
Some
Was it
guys,
free
some
fall
guys
jump
love
school?
it.
Is that what it's
Some
called?
guys don't even have to do Halo school. I'm one of them.
Really?
I never went to Halo school.
So how do you get certified to do the jumps?
You jump static.
And that's it.
Yeah, in Ranger Battalion,
Oh,
they have Halo guys at a different. Well, it's irregardless. Most of your Rangers are static line jumpers, just like the 82nd Airborne Division. We're not jumping at 20,000 feet with oxygen, sneaking in to go rescue somebody.
gotcha.
We're taking over enemy airfields.
Yeah, that's right. You guys are already
Right.
after things are established, right?
We could go in.
Okay.
I mean, Rangers jumped into an airfield in Afghanistan early on. They didn't find much. There wasn't a big threat there, but before that, I think Panama was the most recent airborne seizure of land. Rangers were down there in '89. They parachuted in, did a complete airfield seizure with some SEALs and Hardy Boys. That's another great mission that's been played on TV quite a few times. But Anyways,
yeah.
not to lose my mind and go off too many rabbit holes. After jumping out of a plane 5 times, you get your airborne wings, and
Okay.
then you have to get in line and go to the Ranger Indoctrination Program. Back in my day, it was 94. It was called RIP. And like,
Yeah, I've heard
all
of
we
that.
knew is going to be really bad. It was going to suck, really, really bad. And you just didn't want to, draw any attention and get the boot. We
Yep.
didn't know what they wanted other than motivated and just running everywhere. There's zero chance for you to sit around and just think on your own.
Okay.
Every minute of your time is occupied with something. So you get there and you're tested with, every kind of physical fitness test you can think of. Push-ups, flutter kicks, long runs, sprints, lunges for days. They're just trying to check you, break you, get you to quit.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, how many guys do you start with,
we started with a
approximately?
class of like 175,
Okay.
and we graduated 72.
All right.
They were
So
weeding them
what's
out
that,
all
about
the time.
60%?
Some of it was
60,
security
70%
clearance.
attrition?
Guys show up and then they get weeded out because they can't get a clearance. They got bad credit or something,
Ah,
or a DUI catches up to them, and they thought they had it taken care of with a lesser charge or whatever, so they get yanked out. But
okay.
the rest of them, it's typically injuries or just can't take it, and they decided it's not for them, and they decided to walk away, and they just
Okay.
voluntarily withdraw.
Now, how long's the pipeline from start to finish? The entire thing?
Basic training, I can't remember how long. I think it was 13 weeks. Airborne
Okay.
school is 3. Ranger Indoctrination Program is 3 more. And then after you get through all of that, you're sent to one of the 3 Ranger battalions. And you show up there a brand new guy, a private, that's been tested and has passed the test at RIP. That's all you got. That's the only street cred you own right now. And then
Yep.
they're going to watch you like a hawk and poke you. Hey, private, come here. See how you can take orders.
Oh, have to.
Just constantly doing little gut checks, little
Yeah.
temper checks.
Poke the bear.
Poke the bear, see what we can do with this guy. And
Yep.
you got to take it and do your best to keep your mouth shut
Yeah.
and learn. You spend the first couple days wide awake, tying all your shit together, getting all your gear secured, getting everything accountable, have everything set up the way that your squad leader and team leaders want it all set up. So you're just sucking down the fire hose the first 6 months. And eventually they see you stepping it up and starting to figure things out. And they give you some leadership challenges and ask you how you're doing with that Ranger handbook. You got a brief 5-paragraph op order like it's nothing, and throw in a frago or two and convince your leadership that you're not going to go quit and waste their time. Because Rangers, you got to get your Ranger tab to be a leader in Ranger Battalion.
Okay.
But anybody in the military can go to Ranger School.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I saw Jason
Yeah.
Redmond talking about that one day, and I kind of did a little research on my own. I had no idea.
So you got Ranger Regiment. We wear a scroll, a Ranger scroll. 1st, 2nd,
Okay.
3rd Ranger Battalion. The 75th Ranger Regiment, there's 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Ranger Battalions underneath it. And then in that, there's different companies, right? You have A, B, C, D. And then each company has, we'll say, 4 platoons. Each platoon's roughly 35, 45 guys, right? And then inside that, you've got privates that you're trying to train and groom to become leaders eventually, right? And one of the first gut checks to identify somebody, first you identify a private that's got their shit together, always right place, right time, motivated, wants to step up and take charge of all the other privates. That's the guy that we're looking at.
Yeah.
So the next school slot opens up, squad leaders, team leaders all come together, and we all agree it's that guy. And then he goes off to Ranger School. He's gone until he gets back. You can recycle every phase, but as long as you don't quit and you come back with your Ranger tab, you're now a leader. Doesn't matter if it takes you 6 months or a year.
Okay.
If you get
And
hurt,
6 would be the quickest?
I can't remember, but I think it was like 72 days if you go straight through.
Okay.
But you still have to do a pre-school, a pre-Ranger school, 3 weeks to make sure your shit's straight. that your op orders are good. You know how to brief them. You know how to write them all out. You know, it's a lot of work, a lot
Right.
of administrative stuff that you got to learn, or you won't pass. You can't
Okay.
just be a fire breathing, motivated. Just to,
Yeah.
I'm gonna body breach, and everyone can run across my back.
Yeah. So some intellectual capabilities you need to possess.
But you still got to learn all the good stuff that
All
makes
right.
your ability to go do the op, which is brief a good op order, and that helps paint the picture before you even get out there.
Right.
Anyway, so you knock out Ranger School, and then you come back and work your way up the ranks depending on what your goal in life is. My goal in life at that point was just to give it a shot and learn and do my thing. I eventually got out, did my 4 years, and stayed in Seattle, where I was stationed at. 2nd Ranger Battalion is located at Fort Lewis, Washington. So I just
Okay.
stayed there, was going to school, checking groceries, working at...
Now, how come you got out after 4?
Well, I got married, found my first wife, and she was under the assumption that I was going to stick to my word, and my word was, I'm doing 4 years just for my college, so I can get college paid for.
Gotcha.
But by the time I got to the point where I needed to re-enlist or get out, I wanted to stay. But my mom and my sister, you said you would get out and go to college, Scott.
Damn, man.
So I did. I got out. But after about 6 months, I joined the National Guard and got my fingers wet there and kept my, got to hang out with some boys every now and then and sort of get that vibe. And after this is how it all played out. 6 months after I got out, I joined the National Guard just to kind of have a connection to the camaraderie that I was missing, right?
Yeah.
My guard time ended August of 2001. And then a month later, 9/11 had taken off. So at that point, I'm living in Virginia, and I'm talking to my buddy. I'm like, dude, I think I'm going to go back.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cutting Edge Testosterone Therapy, a veteran-owned, family-run clinic led by a retired first responder. At Cutting Edge, they help men and women rebuild strength, focus, and vitality through advanced hormone therapy, peptides, and performance-based weight management. Whether you've served your country, your community, or your family, Cutting Edge helps you get your edge back safely, professionally, and with people who understand what service takes out of you. Cutting Edge offers individualized care with no monthly fees or contracts. Learn more at cuttingedgetestosteronetherapy.com. Cutting Edge Testosterone Therapy, built by those who serve, for those who still do.
So yeah, I was in Virginia. I was working for a security company, and I saw birds hitting the towers. Got on the horn, and it's like, hey, everybody, just go home. And I'll respond back out with some more information after I talk to the boss. And then the following week, everybody's back at the office and just, sitting around, what are we going to do? Because I was running a ADT affinity program for a gentleman that basically a bunch of door knockers giving away free ADT alarms under a promotional package. So they're out there hitting the street and knocking on doors. Well, now everyone thinks everybody's a terrorist. So, I mean, we were changing things up, but it was slow and painful. And I was sitting there thinking, man, I'm just going to go back in.
Yep.
I kept my finger on the pulse a little bit as best I could because no one's going to be able to tell me what's going on. They're all stuck with operational security guidance. They can't say a peep either. But I was just watching the news and trying to put two and two together to make that decision. What I didn't want to go do is jump back in and then 3 weeks later the thing's over. There's no war.
Yeah.
And I hate saying that kind of shit now after the fact with all the loss and everything involved with war, but that was where my head was at in the beginning of it all. But after I committed, I picked up the phone and I called Gunny Barreras, God rest his soul. And I mean it with all my heart. He was the platoon sergeant of all platoon sergeants. The greatest guy out there. Fair, firm, and consistent. It was his way, and it was that way because it was the right way. And all his squad leaders knew his way to a T, and they worshipped Ranger. I mean, it was just doing the hard work the right way and being the best at it. Master the basics. We're not trying to be Jason Bourne or something we're not.
Yeah.
We want to be the
never
baddest,
reinventing the wheel.
filthiest, most proficient Rangers on the planet. And that means everyone does what they're supposed to do and not ask questions. And, it's not a debate. And
Yeah.
so we were the best platoon. And I know everybody says that, but we were literally the best platoon. We had the biggest, baddest, strangest, weird. We all were strong. It's like we're Neanderthals, but we were all different sizes. And
Yep.
we'd swarm if anybody messed with our platoon. Yeah, it was a good time.
That's awesome.
So then I did that for 5 combat rotations. After I decided to go back in, I got rerouted to 1st Ranger Battalion, thanks to Gunny Barreras. He was the 1st sergeant at that point when I got in touch with him with 1st Ranger Battalion. So he brought me back to his battalion. I got put in his company, and I got put in the same platoon except different battalion. So 3 Bravo and 275 and 3 Bravo at 175. It was great. It was easy.
Okay. You knew a bunch of the guys, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I knew a handful
there.
of dudes in 1st Battalion, but I didn't know as many as I knew over in 2nd Bat. But I tried to have him send me back there in the beginning of the whole conversation, but he was like, "No, you're gonna come here and get it." And I was like, "Oh, that means you're probably." I didn't say anything. Like, he's trying to give me a hint.
Yeah.
Like, you want to sit around for
Yeah,
6
yeah.
more months over there, you can, but if you want to get on the next thing smoking, you need to come here. So I shut up and listened and took off. Went back through Ranger Indoctrination Program for another rotation. That's half the guys and half the guys running it were old buddies or squad leaders of mine that were now, senior E7s, getting ready to become 1st sergeants on their own. So it was a good reunion. And I got to 1st Ranger Battalion about 3 weeks before we took off for OIF 2. And then I did 5 total rotations. So in the early days, it was like a 90 to 120 day rotation. We'd go in, and as soon as we touched down, we're going out that night. And we'd go out and do 1, 2 ops. On average, probably without getting into the weeds, we probably did, I don't know, like every other day early on. Sometimes, you collect intelligence, you're law enforcement, you do post-assault collecting, your sensitive site exploitation could draw another target, right? So we were really good. We were getting really good hip pocket training with some other agencies out there that we could wire tight that intel into driving us to a follow-on or two before we headed back to the camp to refit. The deployments flew by. We had a hot list, top 10 folks. We were always working alongside other guys that increased our footprint. So we would get the next best thing to the best thing, so to speak. And it was always a good time. It didn't mean we didn't get shot at. We had plenty of our own ticks. The numbers speak for themselves. And it was a great opportunity to have us all so highly. We were just an effective machine. General McChrystal was a great man. He's still alive, but he was at the time when he was running the show for us with JSOC and all that good stuff. SOCOM. He was my battalion commander back in the 90s. So I was able to see him from a young enlisted guy's perspective all the way through my career for the most part, how he worked with and through all the bureaucratic stuff to send us over there doing it the way we were doing it, which it in more than one way helped save us, with the op tempo and the things that we were doing to shield us from the enemy that we were taking our sights to.
Now, do you guys work a lot with Green Berets and
The
Delta
Ranger
Force?
Regiment? Yeah,
Or
I
it's
don't
not
want to
too
speak
much of-
for it
yeah.
nowadays. Back in the 90s, it was a totally different Ranger Battalion because we weren't at war. The global war on terror hadn't started.
Right.
It was, you had your Ranger Panama veterans that were the Vietnam Rangers and the Panama Rangers, the Grenada Rangers, the Grenada guys. A lot of folks don't remember that. And then, so before 9/11, the Ranger Regiment was primarily our number one mission was airfield seizure. Take over an enemy
Okay.
airport, secure it, hold it. Now we can bring in heavier equipment, tanks, more stuff. It's a foothold to bring in more gear to fight a long war, so to speak. We weren't
Mm-hmm.
focused on counterterrorism stuff. That was all a tier one job back
Okay.
then. It wasn't until after 9/11 when they started figuring out what the Ranger Regiment's role was going to be outside of raid, ambush, cordon and search, running around a gun truck, setting up blocking positions, holding down security, your outer ring of security for a different group of guys to go in and hit some targets to free up
Gotcha.
their gun trucks so they can get on the target with more pipe hitters. So
Okay.
it was not a supporting role like 100% of the time. There was plenty of unilateral hits the Ranger Regiment was doing. I wrote about a couple of them in my memoir, one of them being Husseba. There was some Marine snipers that got executed by Taliban. It was my '06 rotation. And we got stood down for about a week to start planning to go into Husseba and clean house. And we went in there for 3 weeks and took it back and helped give some kind of revenge for the Marine Corps that was holding down
Mm-hmm.
Haditha, the whole area, because that was a bad, bad, bad day for those boys.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, there were certain things that went down overseas that really, really stuck home with me, and I mentioned those just to give myself some street cred because there's so many naysayers running around right now making up stuff. I didn't want to have to come out with this is who I am and here's all my medals or any kind of like that. But
Yeah.
I drop a couple of good war stories that I was a part of later in my career, just to give the naysayer out there that wants to go do some digging something to go dig because it's a good story. And when you pull it
Drop
up,
one here, bro.
Abu Hamza was a bad guy up in Mosul area. Well, he was a bad guy everywhere, but he was part of that cell up north. And I'm the guy that yanked him out of his car in broad daylight. The first
Oh, yeah?
ever daylight striker VI. Scotty
Nice.
Roessler.
That
And
had to
three
be a
other
great feeling,
superstars that
man.
I won't name right now, but yeah, we were the only show in town. That's why I got it because I think I was a senior squad leader. Normally that would go to a different unit, but they were busy elsewhere. So we set up a great meet. Everything fell into place, and you never really expect human intelligence to be any good,
Spot on.
But this shit was
Yep.
down to the turns, the U-turns, the road, the hugging after the meeting, the kissing on the cheeks.
Really?
This guy was the best source
Damn.
on Mother Earth,
Yeah, so you had someone close to him telling him out, huh?
and it went
Money
down
talks.
like clockwork. I thought
Yeah.
he might blow himself up, but what one hell of a way to dive on a Medal of Honor, right? So I
Oh, my
jumped out of
God.
that striker, come running up on the passenger side, hands, nothing. I'm like, okay, here we go. I'm like, oh, I'm trying to get him to open the door. He's not speaking my English. my
Yeah.
my Arabic was nothing back then. I had a mouthful of Copenhagen and some grunts. But I popped the window.
He knew what you were saying.
I popped the window, I yanked him out, threw him on the ground, secured him, passed him off, and I got a bear hug from my ground force commander at the end of that thing because I'm sure they were thinking this guy was going to smoke him, but
Oh, yeah.
there was no threat
That's nuts.
unless I was ready to pull the trigger. I didn't see guns, no threat in his hands. Hands were free. He wasn't trying to get to clacking. They were just staring at two
Yeah.
strikers that pulled out right in front of him that made him stop. They were trying to play it cool. And then I snuck up
I
behind
got
him.
you.
Yeah, it was a great,
That's awesome.
great mission.
Yeah, thank God I didn't clack off that vest. My buddy Scott Roessler used to be a cop with me in Atlanta. He was a CIA contractor. He's one of those guys that got killed. I forgot what the incident's called, but in Zero Dark 30, when they had that triple agent and he got out of the car and doctor. They thought he was going to be the greatest asset, and he fucking clacked that vest and killed all those CIA operators. He was one of them.
Damn.
So, fucking sad story, man. And it should never have happened if they would have just followed the security protocol.
There's a lot of good stories, a lot of sad stories, a lot of holy shit stories. I mean, I could go on for days, but the key was,
Oh, you could write 6 books if you kept a journal of what was going on when you were there.
it's all in my head because you were not allowed to
Yeah.
have, in Ranger Battalion, you couldn't have cameras. If you got caught taking pictures, you were done. And
Yeah.
they were really harping on it. So maybe the leader would have, like one squad leader or early on in the game, somebody would be assigned a head cam, but it would be super micromanaged by the boss and this, that, and the other, just for historical stuff. It was different in
Yeah.
other units, but you weren't finding videos on YouTube from anybody in Ranger Battalion because they would have been immediately fired. They had eyes on all of it. So
Yeah, I can imagine.
a lot of it's memory for the most part. So you want to hang out with those guys because you remind each other of stuff. Because you don't have a bunch of photos. You don't have movies of what you did.
Yeah.
And it
Enough
just went on for so
posterity's
long.
sake.
So it became your life. It wasn't a couple
Yep.
rotations. It was your life.
So, how do you go now from Ranger to deciding that you want to pursue
I
the
got to
Green
finish
Beret
up my
route?
squad leader time in Ranger Battalion, and at that point,
Okay.
typically, if you're going to get promoted, you are either going to get promoted out of a job and have to leave Ranger Battalion because there's only so many platoons, and there's only so many E7s that can stick around and wait for those for the next platoon to open up. They can't just have a bunch of E7s.
Sure.
So if you're coming
Yeah.
up on promotion and you're not going to get a platoon, you got to find a job. And I knew I had a break in
Yep.
service. I'd probably get picked up my first look, which I ended up getting picked up my first look. And I would have gotten pushed out of the unit to begin with, regardless, because I wasn't getting a platoon
Right.
anytime soon. It's
Okay.
a senior job for the guy that's groomed specifically for that job. 9 times, I'm not speaking
Gotcha.
from any kind of knowledge. I'm just making from my perspective, or from my view as a squad leader looking back. They kind of had the guy identified that was a kick-ass squad leader out there that's got the ability to be a manager of all that stuff that's involved with the platoon sergeant. You're not just breathing fire, You're not just making threats and great motivational speeches before
A
you go
jack
off
of
to
all.
go fight. You're doing a whole
Yeah.
bunch of stuff.
Yeah, it's a Swiss
And,
Army knife with that
so anyway,
job.
I ended up dropping my special forces packet once my squad leader time was done, and I realized I was going to be like an air officer. Like I would be running drop zones or something for a year or two, waiting for another job to open, or I could stay as a squad leader and turn down promotion, and I didn't want to turn it down. I still had camaraderie. I still had motivation. I still had, esprit de corps. I wanted to be something better than I've been being for the last year. I kept wanting progression and growth, and I felt like I'd find it in
Yep.
SF. So I dropped my packet, went that route, and started learning again down the fire hose. But I had a great base. So I showed up with 5 combat tours at a Ranger Regiment and 10 years invested in Ranger Battalion, essentially.
Okay.
Almost 10 years. So I had a good bunch of knowledge and experience. So going through the pipeline, they break you guys down into little administrative teams that you try and do the whole course with. Some guys get hurt or get pushed on, or recycle for whatever reason. And you might get a new guy or two as you move along. But for the most part, you start and you'll graduate with at least half, roughly, of the guys that you begin with. So we're doing that, sharing our experiences, and you get put in leadership positions administratively. So you're accountable for your guys being at the right place at the right time and right uniform, putting out the good information, holding each other accountable, trying to keep each other from doing stupid things to get kicked out of the course because it takes a good year to get through it. Yeah, you got to learn a
Really? Wow.
language.
What was your language?
Spanish. I spoke it
Okay.
really, I didn't speak it like a expert per se. I wasn't collegiately trained, or correction, I was, but you're getting a blast. You're getting a 6-month crash course, Rosetta Stone style,
Yeah.
and you can either get it or you cannot. If you can pick it up,
Yep.
you're going to get a chance to go to one of the SF units. If you fail language, you just can't do it. You're not going to go SF because you got to learn a language.
Man, that sucks.
Because you're doing a different
Yeah.
gig. You're working in the gray a little bit more. You're working with their militaries. So you're in a third world country. They don't all speak English.
Yeah. It's
You
a
gotta do it.
necessity.
So, thankfully
Yeah.
for me, Spanish isn't that difficult, and I took 2 years of it in high school,
Yeah.
so I had a little bit of familiarity with it.
Would have been the same for me. If they would have said Arabic, I'd have been like, I'm done, man. Just pick me out now. Russian, some
I
shit like
skated
that.
through
Ain't
it.
happening.
I didn't walk out of there with, straight A's by any stretch. I was
Yeah.
a C student, but I
Who
got through
cares?
it. And
Exactly.
I didn't realize till later in my
See
career
you
how
later.
important Spanish was gonna become. But with that, you get through your specialty, whatever it is. Like if you're an 18 Bravo, that means you're a weapons guy. If you're an 18 Charlie, that means you're an engineer. So you can build things and blow them up. If you're a weapons guy, it means foreign and domestic. So your Russian, PKMs, all the stuff we dealt with the enemies over in the Middle East was typically Russian. So we got trained up on how to repair their stuff, how to break it down and properly clean it. Because you're going to be working with
Okay.
different countries and their gear. You want to be familiar with
Right.
different weapons and manufacturers and stuff like that.
Sure.
So you get trained up in all the different types of weapons and how to shoot them properly and how to teach people how to use them properly. You get through another phase of the course where they're teaching you how to do the unconventional stuff, where you're working with a city. You show up out of the blue, you parachute in, and it kind of puts you in that, you're deep in enemy lines trying to build your resistance, and you're working by, with, and through the local population to get the foothold. We got to establish something, the lines of communication or whatever for the bigger picture that we're not real all read in on, but we know what our piece of the pie is. And you do that as an
Right.
culmination, putting all the things you've learned over the course of the year for the most part. And then you graduate. So it takes about a year. If you get through it all and you don't have injuries or stuff like that kicking in, just shy of a year, you're done. If you're an 18 Delta, which is the medic, the Special Forces medics, they go through another like 6 months additional trauma styles. I think they get, I'm not gonna, don't quote me, but they're like walking paramedics. So they can do some
Yeah.
surgeries.
Let me ask you, what's better? I forgot to ask. I had Xander. Oh my God, Xander Gleaton on. He's a former PJ. In terms of abilities, PJ and 18 Delta the same, or is PJ higher?
They're supposed to be the same to some
Okay.
degree. Green Berets run the school that everyone goes to be a cool medic. So I would assume the Green Berets are the best because it's their
Right.
schoolhouse at Fort Bragg.
Right.
Okay. So the Air Force Pararescue saved one of my warrant officers' lives, I think. Well, he maybe not has saved him. No, he saved him for sure. But they're great. They're just, I think
They're like
they're just
battlefield
as great
surgeons,
as
man.
the 18 Delta that has a bunch of experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah,
they're equally
absolutely.
worthy of their fucking place on a stack.
Hell yeah. I'll tell you, those guys, I was talking the other day, I think PJs and 18 Deltas, if you're talking, this is, just a layperson, I wasn't in the military, but if you talk about trauma and things they've seen, those guys have seen so much more because they had their hands literally in guys' bodies and they were dealing with death and destruction and the ability to save or have people die on them, unfortunately, doing the best they can. Like, I can't imagine some of the stuff that those guys particularly have gone through. And obviously everyone's going through a ton of stuff, but it's just, I don't know, it's amplified more to me because they consider themselves responsible a lot of times for guys' deaths, man, if they don't, if they die.
They're
How's it treating
all
them?
pretty unique
It's heavy.
in their own. The
Yeah.
Deltas are typically a little more introvert. They're still great shooters. They typically kick everybody's ass with a pistol because they're calmer in their minds. They're not trying to whip their dicks. Excuse my French. They're not trying to show their chest and talk smack the
Yeah.
whole time. They just want to observe and okay, boom. So your medic, your 18 deltas are usually really good on the flat range. That's funny.
Yeah. Probably a little more
But
intellectual.
talking shit, fire breathing, Ranger, 18 Bravo. That's what you want to be. That's what I
Oh,
was.
yeah. That's great.
I decided to stick with what I knew best, and that was guns and talking smack and trying to be the first guy around them horn. Use my PT and my
Yep.
shit talking ability to try to hold down something. But
Hey, shit talking ability
yeah,
is huge, man.
and I really did enjoy all my time in SF. I didn't really start feeling like I had it figured out until right before I retired. There's just so many different directions you can go in that space. Without
imagine.
getting into the weeds, you're not just stuck as a Green Beret. Your title is that, yeah, you're a Green Beret. You work for that branch now, but you can do so many different things. You can be, kind of a planner of like setting the stage for future things maybe that are going to come up under the radar. You're just quietly observing and getting information, or you could be in a stack a continent away, getting ready to go do something in support of something. Or
Right.
because you're in the right place at the right time, you can get picked to be in charge of $50 million worth of stuff. And now you're running a port. And you're going to run this port for this embassy for the next 6 months because we got X, Y, and Z going on and we need your help. Okay, great. And you get that, some interagency type stuff to play around and learn. And so you become a
Okay.
jack of all trades, master of maybe one.
Right. No, it sounds interesting, though. Things you probably never thought about doing, and all of a sudden pop up like,
Yeah,
this
you
is
make
actually
friends,
really cool.
connections, and when you get out, some of those turn into job offers and things like that. But you stay busy. You're gone a lot. So
Okay. How many days on average would you say you were gone a
9
year?
months a year I was gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Any aspirations of Delta?
Yeah, briefly. That moment of time where I had to figure out what I was going to do in Ranger Battalion when I was going to leave. When I hit that point where, okay, I got to get the hell out of here if I'm going to try and keep fighting from the front. I was going to get pulled to go be a staff guy, I guarantee it, because of the time I had. But the only problem is it's so difficult to make it. And I spent a lot of time in Ranger Battalion. I had a lot of buddies that did make it and quite a few that didn't. And these dudes were superstars. Everyone that goes from Ranger Battalion is a superstar because you don't want to come back.
Yep.
Because when you come back,
Yeah.
you're shamed a little bit. But anyways, I
performance.
knew that I needed a break a little bit. I knew I needed a little bit of a break, and that the 7, 9 months, whatever it was, for an 18 Bravo to get through the course was going to be perfect for me, and it made more sense. Otherwise, I'd go there,
Okay.
At 75, 80%, and you're not going to make it unless you're at 110% from friends.
Yeah.
Through the stories and what I've picked up over the course of the time that I had served, I wasn't ready to go even try for that, I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, at least you knew it, recognized it, and didn't force yourself into something you shouldn't
Yeah,
have
I try to
been in.
win or at least successfully complete whatever it is I'm trying to go do, and I didn't have that with that. Nobody does.
Oh, yeah.
I was looking for
You know
more
what, that's a mature decision.
security. Like I think I know what I got to do to make it through that, and I'm gonna go do that.
Yeah.
But anyways, it definitely crossed my mind, and my hat's off to them. They're the best at what they do, bar none. So
Yeah. Amazing.
after going through the Special Forces program and getting all the way through and walking across the stage and getting your Green Beret, it feels awesome because you're looking at all those old
imagine.
photos of JFK standing up there handing off the Green Beret. President Kennedy and General, God, I'm on camera too. Jesus. It's gonna kill me. I'll have to send you an email and follow up with you.
Yeah, we'll do an addendum episode just for this.
General, oh my God, I'm so in trouble. Just so you know, I really was a Green Beret. There's all my 11 stuff. I know,
Wait, that's
right?
not your name.
Long story short, JFK's handing off, like, approving the Green Beret for us to wear. And there's a lot of great lineage that most folks don't understand or didn't know. After World War II, OSS dissipated, like, went away. Half of it became
Okay.
the CIA, and the other half became Special Forces. So those doctors and teachers and mechanics and folks that were signing up to go jump in behind enemy lines and help start a resistance became that split.
Yep.
That's about all I know. I'm not going to talk any more about it.
That's
But
great.
you're doing a lot with civilians too. So it's a little bit different atmosphere, and you can outrun your headlights, but you quickly get back on track. And you're trying to be you're trying to get access and placement. You're trying to, by with and through these different entities, you can get the information that we're trying to get to paint the picture for future operations down the road. Okay? So you're just collecting
Okay.
information and trying to help whatever the task is to get completed. So once you get through SF pipeline, you get sent off to one of the groups. And back then it was right in the middle of global war on terror. I was busy. As soon as I showed up, learning the team SOPs, figuring out how they like to operate, getting in with my boss, who's the senior 18 Bravo, and figuring out how he likes to run a range and teach the guys whatever it is they teach each other. Because coming from Ranger Battalion was a little different than the scope of a Green Beret ODA. It's totally different. Camaraderie and all that good stuff, yeah. Trust, yeah, all that stuff's the same. But you're pretty much running with 10 senior NCOs. So 10 guys that know what the fuck they're doing. They don't need to be babysat. You can cut the team in
Yep.
half and get effectively the same outcome of both sections, right? Because you have 2 of every
Okay.
MOS. You got 2 Bravos, 2 Charlies, 2 Echoes. Those are your commo guys. 2 Deltas, your medics, and who did I forget? Charlies, Deltas, Echoes, Bravos. So you got an engineer, a commo guy, a weapons guy, and a medic on each group that you can split A team or B team, so to speak.
Gotcha.
It's called something else, but I don't want to get into the makeup of it.
Yep.
The theory is you can cut the team in half and get the same outcome with both because they're equally smart and capable and fully functional. And then the other,
So your autonomy's got to
great.
be fantastic. I mean, there's no micromanaging.
Typically,
like you guys
no.
are treated like
Yeah,
men,
you're all
right?
treated like the dog. You got a long rope to hang yourself with,
Long leash.
and if you're
Yep.
smart, you learn really, really fast that you're being bestowed all this great respect and trust, and you will respond with do as you're told, stay within your scope, your lane,
Yeah.
whatever it is you got to be doing, and learn and absorb and make friends and acquaintances and grow your network. And so, as a Green Beret, technically, you should have a little nest of great points of contact everywhere you've been and trained, and helped their militaries improve with training and mentorship. And we'd show up and go through all their gear and make sure that they understand how to maintain it in their environment, how to make it last longer, and even get opportunities to replace their stuff if the budget's there, if we have money. Just trying to help them,
Okay.
let them know we care about them. And
Yeah, so it's very much a relationship-based business.
it's not a one
Yeah.
and done thing. We're not going in there to strike it with
Yeah.
it's not a Ranger raid. We're not going there to just kill everything. We're not going in there to do one thing and then bounce. We got to keep coming back. So you
Yeah.
got to manage personalities. You can't show up and not know their language or give a shit about their food. You don't want to disrespect them that way.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are building something with
so
these
you-
people, so
you
yeah,
eat their
it's a
food.
lot involved.
You try to learn their language the best you can, You show them respect
Yep.
by trying to speak their language until they tell you, all right, man, we all speak English. What are you trying to teach? I'm just kidding. It's not like that.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
kind of. You lean on
That's
the
great.
guys on the team that can speak it perfectly, because there's plenty of guys in the
Yeah.
7th Special Forces Group that were either like first generation Americans and their families, and they've been speaking Spanish far more than they have been English. That can tear up the classes. But you can't abuse that and just have them teach everything either. So you
Yep.
spread the love. Um,
So how was your time in? How many years now do you end up doing in as Special Forces Green
so I
Beret?
did basically 10 years, first half of my life in the Ranger Regiment, and the
Okay.
second half in 7th Special Forces Group. I stayed there until 2018 when I retired. So I got 94 to 98 second bat, and then I came back in after 9/11 and went to 175. I was there for about 6 years, and then I had a year in the pipeline, and then so what's the rest of that? Like 9 more years, something like that with 7th Special Forces Group. So I got lucky, and I spent my whole career in the Army Special Operations. So I got to work with
That's fantastic.
smart, motivated people that volunteered to be in the units that they're in. It brings you better quality, I think. It's just my opinion.
Yeah.
When everybody wants to be there and they're fighting for those
100%.
jobs
Yeah.
that, leaders want to have. It keeps you trying to gain an edge and get better and improve your stuff.
Yeah. Well, everyone around you is great, so you want to aspire to be like them, and it's so cool, man. I always loved working with cops who were great, and you'd be in that clique or whatever, or on a squad for whatever reason, and you're with these other guys that want to be there, that want to be the best, that want to learn. No arrogance or limited arrogance, and it's just. I don't know. The dynamic is just unbelievable. Those are the guys you truly want to kill or die for.
Exactly.
Um, So now, as you get out, do you want to get out, or this is again something you told your wife, like 20, I'm out, and that's
I,
it,
I
or
probably
you
should
were
have
good with
got, I
that
probably should have
decision?
gotten out a couple years before, but I was determined.
Oh,
I wanted my retirement. I didn't want to go out medical. I could have. You know, I had a long list of shit. I got diagnosed with 37 different things down at the Tampa VA,
Jesus.
and so I come home from my last deployment in 2014. Sometime in 15, like I don't know, March, April, I got sent to PrEP, the post-deployment rehabilitation program. That was a pretty new thing that General Votel was putting together to help the soft community have a place where we can run guys that are getting ready to retire medically or just by time and grade, it doesn't matter. But if you've been on a bunch of deployments and you're dealing with all that static, and back then we didn't have a name for operator syndrome at the point. But I had PTSD, I just didn't have it diagnosed yet. I had a whole host of shit
Okay.
that I was dealing with that I hadn't had diagnosed. Insomnia, uh, PTSD out the charts. TBI, I didn't know what the hell was going on. My memory was starting to slip. I didn't know that my hearing was connected to hearing loss will mess up your speech. Didn't know
Yeah,
that.
100%.
It makes
Yep.
sense now, but
Yeah.
I didn't realize it back then. Um, so my last couple of deployments, or I would say the last like 4 years, I was really noticing my speech, my cognitive speech was getting a little bit out of whack. And like certain
Okay.
letters, S's, and certain letters. Then I finally did some digging and talked to the guy at the hospital, the ear doc at the hospital out here. He's like, yeah, there's letters in the alphabet go to different frequencies in your hearing. So when you lose high sensorial hearing loss or whatever, you're going to have a hard time with S's and so on and so forth, different letters. And I'm like, well, that makes sense. Thanks. Now I understand. At least
Yeah.
my,
Well, it's great when you can put together, a label or a name for the
exactly.
condition that you're suffering from. Now it's not you're not
But I
crazy.
got back. I got back and was ordered to go do that for however long it took for me to get down on planet Earth again because I was wired so tight, doing a lot of deployments. And
Oh, I can imagine.
I was self-medicating pretty heavily with alcohol. I was, this is back in 15, 16. I'd show up, give me a couple shots of Jack Daniels ice cold, and I'd kill a few of those, like 3. 2, 3, get the edge off. All right, now whatever IPA you have. And then I would start stacking those until someone said, dude, you got to stop. And then I would laugh. But I would still, try to be funny as I'm getting drug out of something or waking up in
Yeah.
jail for being an asshole and starting a fight with somebody. Like when I reached the descent, I was that loud, drunk asshole that no one wanted to be around. And the only people that
Yep.
were around during the day were the ones that were going to be right there. If I don't show up, it's going to be them that does it type of folks. Those were my friends at that point. Not all. There was plenty
Yeah.
of great people trying to help me that I wasn't responding to technically. I did not know how to manage my insomnia. It was taking over. I was having a really hard time. I tried everything. When I say everything, I tried everything. After coming back from the 4 months in prep, I got diagnosed while I was down there in the Tampa VA by all those great doctors with 37 things. And they're all big things, like the whole skeletal body. I had a lot of shit going. Broken bones, a lot of surgeries, got shot in my left hand. Had a striker that I was in get blown up. We hit something on that back. Well, not that getting into the mission. It went up and upside down. It flipped over on us.
Holy
We were
shit,
lucky
one of
because
those things? Wow.
we had shut our hatches. We were going in to go do a hit, and 3 minutes out ish, depending on where you're at. If you're driving around and there's overpasses, you got them closed. Learn that the hard way.
Yep.
But if you're in a town and you're kind of setting off, in an open area where you're overwatching, you're pulling down security or something like that, yeah, you can open them and let some air in so we don't all die of heat exhaustion. But nine
Yeah.
times out of 10, they were shut. Thankfully, they were shut down because it was down. My head, I was the guy with no helmet on, yeah. Should have had my helmet on, should have had my chin strap shut. But my head smashed into that thing like a madman. The only other time it hurt that bad was when I burned in on a jump. My parachute didn't open like it was supposed to, and I bounced off the tarmac at Hunter Army Airfield. I'll remember this to the rest of my life. I don't remember what I did until people showed up at the ISU, the ICU, to let me know that I was running all over the airfield screaming, "Where's my fucking gun? Wah! Where's my men?" I was a squad.
You
I
were
was a
walking
squad
after
leader,
that?
okay? But I burned, when I say I burned in, my parachute didn't open like it was supposed to. It was pitch black, like 2 o'clock in the morning, no illume. I'm trying to figure out my rate of descent. I'm the first dude out the plane. Everything that could go wrong for me, for the number one guy,
Yeah.
was going wrong for me. And at the last second, I'm like, do it! And I pulled my reserve, and it came out like seconds before I bounced off the concrete. The only reason why I'm still here talking is because we had just switched from the K-pot to the Mitch. And I had those gel pads.
What's that?
The gel
The
pad
helmets. Okay.
in the Mitch helmet. It's the crazy looking one, They're so old now.
Yep.
I'm talking like we just got them. But anyways, this is the only reason why I'm still here is because of that helmet. The K-pot was just like a headband with a suspended Kevlar helmet dangling over the top of your head.
Yeah.
The next best thing was called the Mitch. And it was more created around the head with these pads, these gel pads that could take concussion better. And that thing saved my butt.
Okay.
I still had to go to the ICU.
Damn.
I had a fractured skull back here, but anyway,
Ooh.
I don't even know where I was going with that.
Just talking about injuries, I think.
That they just catch up
now,
to you. They catch
get
up
back
to
from-
you, and I'm running through
Oh,
the
yeah.
pipeline. They're trying to help me get healed up before I retired. And I think, they obviously saw my drinking was getting out of control. I was going through a divorce. My son was fighting leukemia at the time. I had a lot of shit on my plate. Granted, my son was dealing with it, not me. But it made me extremely sad to have him go through that. I quit going to war. I'm about to retire, and now my son's sick, and it just added a lot of things to my plate. And I'm sure you can imagine. He's happy and
Hell
healthy.
yeah.
He's in college
That's
right now, learning
unbelievable.
how to be a mechanic. He's doing great. But
Oh, excellent.
after I got back from that, I got a phone call from the the Green Beret Foundation, and they said, "Hey man, we got you hooked up. Here's $5,000 to go do some hyperbaric oxygen treatment right there in your town." I fought it for a minute, and then I appreciated it, and I started doing that the following Monday. I'd go in there for 72 minutes, drop you down a couple atmospheres, crank it up to 100% oxygen, and I'd either watch TV on the wall or fall asleep. Early in it, I couldn't sleep, but it was like 15 or 20 trips or visits, sessions, I would say. I started getting
Yep.
sleepy time in there, and I thought, holy cow, I've never taken a nap. I can't remember the last time I took a nap.
Wow.
I was just too wired on, too turned on.
Yeah.
And
Of course.
I started noticing a little bit of that relief, a little cognitive, my cognitive acuity, whatever was coming back. They had me doing the snap test on the
Yep.
computer with red and blue, different boxes and moving around. I had to hit a button every time it does something, and it's checking my cognitive and my skills, eye and hand. I can't remember what it's called. That was a
Yeah.
snap test or something,
Hand-eye
but
coordination.
they were getting better.
Okay.
And he's the head doctor, Dr. Eddie Zant, was like, we're going to do another round. Like, you got $5,000, you got a grant for 48 days. We're going to do another 48 or another 40. And I said, okay. And we did another round of 40. And he got to keep all the data. I just got the extra 40 dives on the house, so I appreciate them for that.
Hell yeah.
The only negative, if there is one, would be that I need sustainment dives, and it's not cheap. Now TRICARE is paying for some, so I need to go test that theory out and see how many I can get out of the TRICARE piece of it. I don't know if it's forever now or what, but back then they weren't paying for any of it. It was still experimental, and I didn't have the funds to keep doing it. But I knew guys that did, and they said if you sustain it with like a jump a month, or not a jump, excuse me, a
Yeah.
dive, then
Dive.
you retain it a lot longer. And the feedback or the relief that I was getting would give me enough of a break of dealing with certain things that I could kind of relate to who I was before I got the H-bot and start trying to identify ways to calm my shit down because I was just triggered, After that, I did the SGB, which is stellate ganglion block. It was great.
How was that?
I'd never heard of
if
it,
you guys-
right?
yeah.
So the SGB wasn't a thing until, I don't know, 2015, late 2015 maybe. SEAL Doc and USASOC surgeon and Doc Mulvaney did a study of 80 operators. They all had lots of deployments dealing with, I think the criteria was like high intensity and high, like your chances of getting hurt are 90%. You're dealing with that level of stress, so to speak. These things were gauged differently back then. It wasn't as robust as it
Okay.
is now. So it was like, okay, he's got lots of trips and high kinetic areas, la 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 la. How's this do for them? And they had really good feedback. It's like a reset, right? The first one I got, within seconds of the shot, I immediately felt relief. I felt like the backpack, my rucksack with all my stuff in it that I haven't handled yet, that needs to get handled
Yeah.
someday when it hasn't got handled yet, gone. Yes.
Really?
There was a lot of shit in that backpack
Wow.
back then. And I
I can
immediately was like,
imagine.
wow, my God. It was just, all the stress was gone. All the shit that was dragging me down just lifted off of me, right?
Yep.
And immediately, I was talking some smack because I was in a study group. There was a bunch of doctors in the room with my surgeon, and I laughed. I made them think I wasn't happy for a second, and then I'm like, I feel amazing, blah. I was still a little nut job back then. But he said, just go enjoy the rest of your day, go have dinner with your friends, whatever you're going to do here in DC, and don't drink. Don't take anything to go to sleep, and don't use any of your stuff that you probably got, like your fan and your white noise box and everything else. And I started laughing. I'm like, are you kidding me? I won't be able to sleep if I don't have anything. well, we want to try and see if you can, so just try. I said, okay, I promise I'll
Yeah.
do my best. I ended up falling asleep with nothing on. I remember killing the light and going,
Nice.
okay, buddy, count backwards from 100. I was just doing something, and I fell asleep. I didn't dream, but I slept good. I woke up and my alarm woke me up at 6, or maybe,
Damn,
yeah.
all night. That's
And
crazy.
I walked downstairs. My surgeon's sitting there waiting. I told him it didn't work, and he's like, God damn it. Started writing in his notebook. I'm like, just kidding. I feel great. I slept. He's like, what? You slept? You didn't wake up at all? I'm like, not at all. He's like, okay. So
Damn, that's crazy.
it was a new thing back then, and I felt
Yeah.
better. And Trip was doing a good job of, hey, so what's up, man? You want to go grab some lunch at the airport? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And I was being nice and jovial, and he was keeping notes of all this stuff. I wasn't tracking it at the time, but he's such a good dude, great doc. And we got back. He kept an eye on me, and about 4 months goes by, and I'm back at the bar after work, going back to my old routine. And he hits me up right about that time. He's like, hey, buddy, how you been? I think we go get another Stillate shot. And Mulvaney told him to keep an eye on me. Like, some of these guys might need more than one. We don't know yet. It's so new. But let's see if it works.
Yep.
And it was about 4 months till it wore off. And then I went and got another one. And then I realized, okay, they only last for so much time. Like, I need to fix my shit. Each time I did one, I would get a little window of time to try to correct some things. So it was really helpful for that. Friends and family knew I was getting them when I got them because I would turn, yeah,
Totally
I would
different
calm
person.
down, not be reactionary, not trying to finish your sentence before you finish whatever it is you're trying to say, kind of a guy. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
but then they got kind of to the point where I was like, I'm not going to waste my time anymore. I wasn't happy at that point. I did 5 and they helped me as best they could, but I was still searching for something better. And
Yeah.
I was really concerned, man. I wanted to be a good father. I wanted to be a good husband. I wanted to be a good at everything, but I couldn't because I was fucked up.
Of
My
course.
head was damaged. I couldn't
Yep.
connect dots to certain things, right? And the only joy I was getting was drinking with guys I served with. And that joy was running dry. It wasn't joy anymore. Now it was becoming a bad habit, you know? And
Yeah.
so thank God. I tell everybody, thank God my buddy showed up and asked me about the study because I had tried pretty much everything up to that point. 5 years of talking to a shrink, um, the stellate ganglion shots, the H-spot, the 4 months down in Tampa with 8 experts in their field of study trying to help me out while they're diagnosing me with all my stuff. I ended up leaving there with chronic PTSD with depressive disorder. I guess like the most highest one you can get. If you're shooting for the top, that's the
Yeah.
top.
Good for you, brother.
And
He doesn't
God,
half-ass anything.
but let's get
Go hard or go home.
into the magnetic resonance therapy. So the study, I agreed to it. I thought was going to be this particular guy the rest of my life. And what was scaring me is I was trying to quit drinking, period, and I couldn't. I quit hard alcohol cold turkey about 2 years prior, but I couldn't stop drinking beer. I needed something to help me sleep and get my edge off. But
Yep.
so anyway, shoot down to Cardiff, California, or San Diego. I'm there with 3 other superstars in their world, and we're all trying to get better. We all have the same issues, and we started doing magnetic resonance therapy. It took 15 visits for me, or 2.5 weeks. Yeah, it was like, I think it was the 3rd week. After the 3rd visit or 3rd week, that Friday, I went to sleep around 9 o'clock at night, watching a movie in my bed on my laptop, and I woke up, and the sun was already up, and I didn't get up to go pee or check the doors. I didn't hear anything that
Damn.
wakes me up thinking that I need to be doing a security sweep or anything. I couldn't believe it. I'm like,
Yeah.
I call the wife. You're not gonna believe how long I just slept. How long? Like, I think 10 hours or something. It's just like, what? I think it was really like 8.5, almost 9. I said, I'm going to call you back, go for a run. I ran all the way down the beach as far as I could go, turned around. It was like just shy of 5 miles. Did like a 10-mile run. I felt the best I've ever felt in my entire life from sleeping. And you know what it did? It really made me feel like the study was going to be worth something. because I had no idea
Yeah.
what's going to happen with this Ibogaine or 5-MeO. I
Yeah.
didn't know I wasn't even there yet.
I did 20 days of that, the transcranial
It's
magnetic stim, and
definitely
after the
worth it, man.
third day, yeah, I dreamt, bro. I can't tell you how many years it's been since I had a dream. Now I didn't remember it, but I remember that I dreamt, and it's funny because the text like I'm gonna cry. I'm like, why? She's like, because that means it's working, and I was probably taking 20 milligram edible to sleep at night. I was able to cut that down quickly to 10. I've gone down to 5. I actually got off it, but I don't know, sleep wasn't as good, so I'm probably taking about 5 mgs, but I want to get off it completely. But without a doubt, man, it was
That's
fantastic.
outstanding. I used to do the same thing, and then
Yeah,
after I got back, before I went down to Ibogaine land, if I could get gummies or something like that, they would be great. I would pass out and not dream about killing or anything. I used to dream a lot about war, almost nightly, especially if I drank. And I'd thrash around. Wife would wake me up.
yeah. Wife said the same thing. I would
Um,
thrash around.
I wasn't a violent like thrasher, but I was fighting, or I'm
She
either
said you're
fighting the
fighting in your
guy
dream.
or trying to save a guy, not save a guy, but trying to work on
Hmm.
someone who's trying to help a delta stop bleeding, trying to do something to help rush or aid to somebody, and horrible sleep. But anyways, all that started to change. I started giving a shit about what people were talking about, and I was trying to explain this to the head at Cardiff Brain Performance. I can't remember her name off the top of my head right now. Stacy, maybe. I'm like, you're not gonna believe this. I'm really really getting into what people are talking about. She's like, what do you mean? I go, like caring about what their conversations are. She goes, that's your first breakthrough. And that was the day that I ended up sleeping like 8.5 hours. I had a bunch of breakthroughs that day. So for me, 15 days of
Yeah.
that, going every day in the morning was the key. And then it just kept getting better. We did 6 full weeks, and then we took off down to Tijuana to go meet the folks at Ambio Life Sciences. Walked in the door, Trevor and Jonathan, and then I think it was Juan and Ruby, just a whole host of amazing people in their field of awesomeness, guiding you through
Yep.
everything. And you show up and just know you're in good folk. You're in good energy. You're in a you're in good
Good
hands.
hands.
And if you're new in that world of healing, like I was like, wow, kind of mystified by how just everybody was so nice and had a big smile, and it was a real genuine smile, and everybody was lit with just goodness, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to explain, but I was coming out of a dark,
Well, it's
yeah.
not what we're used to, bro. We're surrounded by hardened men, man. And then you go and you see these people. And I told you my first ayahuasca. At first, I was like, man, these ain't my people. And then by the end of the
These are
weekend, I'm
my
like, yo,
people,
these are my
yeah.
fucking people. Like these people are
Yeah.
all about love and helping and grace and man,
You know
strength.
what? I started. We got there and we unpacked. We handed off our gear. They had the paramedics go through our, make sure nobody was self-medicating or doing anything. We were all prepared for that.
Yep.
Gave up our phones, and if you had any meds that you were still taking, like still had to take Adderall, which is fine with Ibogaine and whatnot. But some things like
Okay.
kratom, you're not supposed to be taking kratom. A lot of I mean,
Yeah, they've
people
been
do
big
that.
about that. Yeah.
I've never
Pre-integration
touched it, but
calls.
I guess folks are using it for anti-anxiety or something. Don't,
Yeah.
yeah.
Highly addictive
If
too.
you not take it at all, that's even better. But they wanted to make sure that we didn't have anything we weren't supposed to have for the not only the study that we were all a part of, but they didn't want any bad reactions because you were thinking that it was an over-the-counter supplement and it wasn't going to be interacting wrong or something like that. But kratom's really
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
good with ibogaine. Um,
No.
but anyhow, so we get there and we take off to a, gosh, I always forget the name. A Tesmacal, what the heck? It's like a sweat teepee, but it's an igloo.
Yeah.
Tesmacal or
Sweat
something like
lodge.
that.
I know exactly. Something like yeah. Let me see. I'll
But
look it up as you're talking.
it was like 15 minutes down the road, and it was literally in this old couple's house in their basement. So yeah, we pulled up,
Really?
got out of the van. This old woman opens up the gate. We walk into their little foyer there, and next thing you know, I'm praying and asking for permission to get into this igloo looking thing. I'll send you a picture of it. It's super cool. It's got like Aztec and paint jobs around it thing. I'm sure it all has
Yep.
significant to their like purging gods or something like that. But she's in
Yeah,
there
absolutely.
making that bad boy get hotter and hotter and hotter, and we're chanting um, this prayer to we're preparing to go visit the Ibogaine and work through this, and we're requesting you to purge us and get the toxins out of us, and we need to sweat it out. This is the beginning, and we did that for like 3 hours, bro. It was awesome. It was super taxing, but it
Oh
was
yeah.
awesome. You're in there beating on drums and stuff, making noise, and they have a big thing of water right in the center. You can't see it because it's pitch black, but they have towels. You bring your own towel and you can dump it in there and give yourself a little bit of relief as you're banging on your noisemaker and reciting the prayer. Once that wrapped up, we went back to the house and they had us both.
Tomascal.
Tamasco, thank you.
That's what it's called.
It's a
Yeah.
real one. It's awesome. You're gonna love it. It's so cool.
Yeah, I can't wait.
And the folks that live there are amazing, super gracious. And
Yep.
so we get back to the house. They had us still flooding us full of NAD, hooking up each arm. We had NAD dripping, getting all the toxins out of us. They took our blood, ran that off to get checked. So you're doing a lot of blood panels leading up, and they were checking us while we were there, which is their protocol. They have high standards. From what I know, they're the highest
Yeah.
standards.
Yeah.
Their protocol is, I mean, I'm pro ambio because that's where I did my healing.
Yeah. That's where I'm going the same place. They're one of the
But they are
world's
the
leading
number one.
providers of
Yeah.
Ibogaine.
And
So yeah.
they're super thorough. I love how it all just played out. They give you a menu, basically. This is what's going to happen, and their chefs are paleo expert chef. I mean, five
Heard the food's
star. If it was
sick.
10-star, it would be 10
Yeah.
star. It's
That's
so
what
good.
everyone's saying. I'm pumped
It's
to
so
see this
good and
food.
healthy and full of everything that you need while you're going through the healing that you're going through.
Yep.
Everything's specific for the healing. So it's not some random
Yeah.
mess going on. Everything there is
No.
for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
healing. It's so
Done
good.
for a
Yeah.
reason. Yep.
And you fast when you have to fast. There's no caffeine. There's plenty of tea to go rifle through, and great juice and water. And the food.
Luckily, I have 1 cup of coffee a day, so I'm not going
Yeah,
to be
I
going
just
through
drank tea
DTs.
when I started feeling like I needed coffee. But anyhow, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
meditation. They have a great handful of folks that they have show up. We did meditation. We did some breathing meditation. We did a bunch of yoga and stretching and like we're all new to this. Okay, these are 4 former pipeheaders that are trying to get better, and so we're all like cavemen in there. Some of the guys were already kind of into the yoga thing, but
Yeah.
we're still not flexible, right? So it was funny, and
Oh yeah.
that led us to that following night where we took our first dose of Ibogaine next to the fire. We did a nice ceremony, and we threw our intentions into the fire. What we want to let go of and what we want to return through the Ibogaine. And then we spent 4 months leading up to this point with a coach calling us once a week and a therapist calling us once a week. And the coach's job was to prepare us to figure out what intentions are, number one, because Ranger didn't know what intentions were. I had to learn that real quick. And then I realized, okay, I do know what they are. I just called them something else. But mine were very superficial at first, and I had a great coach calling me once a week, calling me out on the rug. Get deeper, get deeper, get deep, get
Yep.
personal, get deep. And I went real deep. I had a great list. It went.
So can you just share some of them, or are they too
Yeah, I
personal?
mean,
Just
I
what
wanted
have they
to let
evolved
go
to?
of all the hate. I had a lot of anger.
Yeah.
I had a lot of anger in
That's
me
right.
from brothers getting
Yeah,
killed.
My first ayahuasca, my arms open. I'm like, please let me get rid
Yeah,
of all
I
this
wanted
hate.
to stop being a
I said it to
hateful,
her.
angry old man. I was such a nice kid growing up.
Yep.
I was a kid that would cry, you know. I'd run to my room and bury my
Yeah.
face and cry my eyes out. My mom would come in and pet me and tell me I'm okay and blah, blah, blah. And I'd go back out and play football or something,
Yep.
right? But I was an emotional guy. I had some feelings. those were all gone
Yeah.
at that point. And um, I wanted to get my life. I wanted the real Scotty to be back. I wanted the guy that was super eager to learn and do something new and help other people back. I didn't want to just sit and stew on shit that I have no control over, that I can't change or do anything about. And that's all I was living in.
Yep.
I wanted to be genuinely closer to anyone and everyone that was close to me, that was trying to be close to me, but I wasn't accepting it. Like my mom, my sisters, my brother, my wife, my kids, um, and some of my old buddies that I got very dark and sad and lonely, and I was using alcohol to cover all that shit up. It
Yeah.
was, isolating. At the point
Yep.
that I got pulled into that study, couldn't have been better for where I was at, but it gave me a little bit of hope, right? And so as I'm down there and taking my first red pill and throwing my intentions in the fire, like, okay, there's no turning back now. And I'm revamping all the stuff I remember watching about it, listening to Trevor talk about it, listening to Sean Ryan talk about it, and really just going in blind, so to speak, and just trying to remember what the coaches were telling me. And the therapist, his big mission was to get me to learn how to meditate with breathing. He goes, the medicine's very strong. Ibogaine is very, very strong. And I'm like, okay. He goes, you're not going to be able to fight it. And I go, what do you mean fight it? He's like, you know, when feelings start to kick in, you can't just bear down and make a safe place in that bearing down portion. It's going to tear you apart. It's going to make you heal one way or the other. And if you fight it,
Yeah.
you're going to have more purging than you want. So you're going to shit,
Yeah.
okay, let me take this back. You're going to maybe throw up and have some issues if you try to fight it. If you can
Yep.
breathe because when it starts doing its magic, bro,
It's
it
gonna
is
make
out
you
of,
feel, man.
yeah, it
It
makes
makes you
you
feel.
feel. And it,
Yep.
it, um, it was so out of this world. I don't want to ruin it for anybody else. My visions were very biblical. Okay. Um, it's, I didn't talk about this for about 2 years. I didn't know that 3 things I saw in my visions with the Ibogaine were angels. I thought they were demons. And I didn't know why I
Really.
saw the demons. And it was just for a brief moment. And then I felt like I blacked out. But you can't fall asleep on Ibogaine. It's impossible.
Yeah.
But due to research, I discovered that you can get subjugated into a different sub state while your consciousness is dealing with the rewiring that Ibogaine does. So that's the only explanation that I've really got for it. But
Okay.
I wrote about it in the book. It magically all just ties to this dream I had right before I decided to go back in after 9/11 took place, that weekend that I had. I sent everybody home, and I remember coming back to work, and I was talking to one of the guys I worked with, like, dude, I had a crazy dream this weekend. And he was always preaching to me. You know, he's like, you need to go back and get back in church, Scotty. He was a retired command sergeant major and a Green Beret
Okay.
and a war hero from Vietnam. He won't say it, but he went through some incredible stuff that maybe will be talked about one day, and became a great follower of Jesus Christ, and chose to be a stand-up husband. He told me a really good story once, and I respected the hell out of it. I respected him just because of his retired rank and everything. I did a quick dig, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, he was the command sergeant major of the honor guard, if I'm not mistaken. And
What do you do? Like 40
excuse
years?
me,
What
he
do you
did a
do? Like
lot.
40
I think he
years?
definitely did like 30 something. Yeah, he was most of his,
Because Nam ended in 72, right?
yeah,
So
he
it's
was a
28
Green
years
Beret in Vietnam,
to
and he
2000.
retired as a command sergeant
Damn.
major of the honor guard. But he was retired when I hired him. He retired in the 80s or
Okay.
90s, probably the 90s,
Oh, I got you. I got you.
mid 90s
Okay.
probably. Anyway, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole and misquote his whole
Yeah,
background,
yeah.
but majority of what I'm telling you is true. And I came back into work and I'm sitting there talking to him. I'm like, I got to tell you about this dream. He goes, okay, what's up? Or tell me about your dream. I'm like, I'm in the woods. I see something. I walk toward it. It looks like a, what do you call it? A pontiff or whatever. Place you stand and preach. And I walked up
Yep.
to that, and there's this huge book sitting on top of it with really like engraved brown leather, fancy, and it had a purple bookmark. And I opened it up, and I looked down, and all I could see was Ezekiel, and I woke up. And he's like, wow. And I go, that's it. He's like, have you ever read the Bible, Scott? And I said, no, I've got one, and I've gone through it and read stuff, but I just don't get it, you know. I didn't have any training, and I didn't know what I was doing. And even though I had an uncle who's a Lutheran pastor. But he's like, well, you need to read that. You need to read the Bible, Scott. Every man needs to read the Bible. Yes, I know that. Okay. And you need to read Ezekiel. Okay. I'll start reading it. I tried to read it that night, and I was like, what the heck is this? It's talking about a wheel, and it's talking about this creature with all these faces, and it's about war. That's pretty much all I knew. Fast forward to November 17th, 2022. I've taken my 4th dose. It's now 9:30. First dose was at 8. Then we met back upstairs, the meditation room at 9. Took the second dose. And then 15 minutes after that, the third, and 15 minutes after that, the 4th. So it was like 9:30, 9:45 or something like that. I couldn't get them to let me record this whole thing because it's, private. It's health related. But I had my Soonto, I hit my start watch when I started feeling like things were getting different. And there's a mirror in front of me, and I'm making some noise, and they got the Bitwitty tribal music playing. It's very traditional. Sounds like every instrument on earth beating at the same time. And you got your noisemaker, and I'm staring at the mirror. There's a candle and a flower, and I'm starting to see these masks bouncing around. And then I'm seeing like 16 different layers deep. And I can now I'm analyzing all the reflections, every different direction, and I feel like I'm going through this like kaleidoscope of whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, something's going on. And that's when I pulled my mask down and laid back and took off. Next thing I know, I'm flying. I have no body. It's not like I have a body, but I'm looking down on a green grid, and I'm just hauling ass, booking, right? And I start thinking, well, there's got to be a wall. And I look up, and I see the green grid going up this wall now. It's like Tron, kind of. So I'm not on a bike. I'm above it, just flying with it. And I get to the wall. I think I'm going to hit it, and boom, I take off like a rocket through the ceiling, and I'm next thing you know, I'm in space. And it's pitch quiet. It's black, and I'm just. The first thought is, holy shit, I don't have a spacesuit on, and I can breathe. It's been a lie. All this shit's been a lie. And then I start trying to turn myself. I couldn't figure out. I'm like, well, if that's a lie, there's probably something else out here, and I can't see what's behind me. And I'm starting to hear like you hear Ibogaine, it makes a noise. It's a frequency.
Oh yeah.
It hums, and it was getting a louder hum. The hum was starting to take over. There's times throughout the night where the hum is all I'm hearing. I'm not hearing the Bitwitty music playing. I'm not hearing my buddy to my left puke the entire time. Poor Brian. But there's times where I don't hear anything except this humming. It's the Ibogaine. It's called the Ibogaine hum. I'm sure there's a scientific name for it or whatever, a description for that. I'll have to Google it and see it and email it to you. But it would come in and get loud and prevalent when things were starting to happen. Like my vision was going to get more detailed or whatever. The first time that kicked in, I turn around and I see my dad sitting in his recliner, and he and I had a falling out back in 2005. We basically cut ties. I didn't want nothing to do with him. I blamed him for everything that my mom had to go through in life, and which wasn't good, wasn't right. But I gave him a good lashing. We got into an argument in the men's room, and I won. Not like you're supposed to get into a fight with your dad. And then he ended up flying home the next morning. Never talked to him again until a couple years before this medicine. He's in his deathbed at a hospice, dying of alcoholism. And I said, the only way I'm going to go see him is if he apologizes. He can call me, he can email me, he can text me, he can snail mail me, whatever. But I'm not coming out there until I hear an apology. Because we said some bad shit to each other. And I wasn't fixed. I was still dealing with everything that I was dealing with. And I
Yeah,
was not
unhealed.
interested. And he died. I didn't go see him. It didn't bother me until after the fact. That my pride and ego and there was no good reason other than there wasn't a good reason. I should have just figured it out. And so I was handling that internally, and I always wished I had a dad growing up as a kid. I always wished I had a dad growing up as a kid. My friends' big brothers were my dad. The nice guy that I would cut grass for once a month was my dad for an hour, you know, while he would talk to me and tell me, good job, kid. Next time, you know, bring an edger and I'll give you an extra $1 or some stupid shit. But anyway, I was getting those talks from just random men, right? Or buddies,
Yep.
brothers, you know. My good buddy Gabe, Jason, and Brett helped raise me. And anyways, I turn around, I see that. I'll never forget the brown recliner. It was the good visits when I was younger, before he got hooked on alcohol. He'd be sitting in his recliner talking jokes, having me start a fire in the fire pit in the house. I remember those days, and I didn't remember those back before I got healed up. All I thought about was things that I did not like about him.
Yeah.
So he and I talked for what seemed to be an hour or two, about like two. It felt like 2 or 3 hours. We cried. I told him everything that I was mad about him, everything I blamed him for. I apologized. He was talking to me like it was my dad. And this wasn't a prearranged conversation I had with him at any point in my life. These conversations were real. In my state, where I was at, handling my business, it was a two-way street that I was having with my father. And he was the nicest, gracious man. And I put every ounce of anger and hate away, and it hasn't come back. And now when I sit around and think about him, I think about all the shit that I miss about him and that I loved about him, especially music. He was a really good musician. He got on the Johnny Carson
Right.
show when he was younger,
Nice.
but that's kind of where it fizzled out. He's always been in bands, but I remember him playing a lot of different gigs and stuff like that. Real good voice, good
Yep.
guitar player. Just never made it outside of that, you know, best rock band in town, but never got the record label or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that's what led to his demise, unfortunately. Because he was a
Oh,
good
yeah.
businessman, he made it elsewhere, but the alcohol, he couldn't cut it off. But without
Yeah.
going down that rabbit hole,
Cut the legs out of many a good man.
the conversation was great. It was a lot of tears, and it healed me. It healed me with my anger and my pain that I had toward him. And it's, you know what it did? This was the first realization of quantum entanglement, because I let it all go and I fucking hugged it out with him, so to speak, excuse my French. And when I woke up and eventually let that out with my sister, when I eventually told Allison about this discussion I had with him, it made her feel better. It made everybody else feel better. And I'm telling you, now we can sit and shoot the breeze about our dad, and it's not about doom and gloom and how much we hate him or this or that. We're talking about, yeah, he tried, and you know what? He sucked at it, a lot of things, but he was also good at this and that. And we don't sit and stew and hate and anger. All that's gone. And throughout every
Yeah.
facet of my life, the things that I had doing that to me no longer affect me. And I say it on
Yep.
your show so people can try to grasp. It's not a magic wand down in Mexico. This medicine will flood your brain and start doing its magic. They don't know how, but it goes in and it repairs all of your neurotransmitters back to brand new. That's why you don't.
Yeah.
That's why you don't do
Reset button.
heroin after you go through their. If you're an everyday user,
Yep.
and then you get cleaned up enough through their detox to be able to be administered the medicine, they have like a 90-something% one-time go, never touching it again. That saves lives. Same
Yeah.
thing for alcohol.
It's literally
Yeah.
like a human reset button.
It fixes
Boop.
those damaged
It's
neurotransmitters
unbelievable.
where all those addictions are stuck. And
Yeah.
the feeling is just, I couldn't believe that I didn't want Copenhagen anymore. I dipped
Yeah,
Copenhagen since high
that's a
school, and I
deep
thought
addiction.
this is something I'm going to die with, for sure. And I had a
Yep.
can everywhere. I had my wife carry a couple cans in her purse. I had a backup
Did
can in
you?
every little hubby hole of my Jeep. I was
Oh, I
addicted to
can
Copenhagen
imagine.
for sure. And I never
Yeah.
touched it again after Ibogaine. That was the first miracle. Well, let me back up. The first golden ticket, Mert, when I slept. And I started caring about conversations again. I started getting my empathy back. And
Yep.
then after Ibogaine and 5-MeO, it was just a plethora of goodness. Like all my bad shit was going away. All the stupid decisions, all the self-convincing bullshit to go drink ended. But what upset my wife the most was that how can you go do this for a week and then be the guy that I've been trying to get you to try and be for the past 5 years or 4 years at the time, whatever it was. And the resentment is what I had to work through. But you know what? I took it as, hey, dude, you earned it. If you were great before you went down there, she wouldn't have all this fucking resentment towards you because of all the shit you pulled and all the trife and heartache and long nights, right?
Yeah, but I almost look at it as though you were
I was
handicapped prior
handicapped.
to, and you were incapable of doing that, bro. Like I look at my emotional IQ, and it was
My,
fucking low, man.
yeah,
Like I never allowed myself to be vulnerable because, first of all, I never saw my father do it, and he would say such cutting stuff that it hurt me so much that I calloused up, and I became a guy who never, let himself be vulnerable or feel, and consequently, anytime I went to say something that I thought would make me sound weak, I didn't say it. So, you just become this shell of a man in some respects. You could be smart as hell, IQ wise, one thing. Emotional IQ is another thing entirely. And now, man, I will cry. I've cried multiple times on podcasts. I did a Facebook Live a couple of days after my first ayahuasca weekend because I figured there had to be more people going through what I went through. And I just told them, and I was crying. And I came back in the house, told my wife, like, I'm so proud of myself. I never would have been able to cry physically. And the fact that if I had, I would have been so embarrassed. Now I'm
yeah.
like proud of myself.
Because you know what?
One of my best
Someone's
buddies.
not going to like
What's
this
that?
interview for some reason. And they're going to leave a remark. And
Oh,
I'm going to look at it and go,
yeah.
okay, I'm still just going to keep sharing what I got.
Oh, yeah. I'll look at it
Yeah,
and say you're
one day.
unhealed. When you heal, come back and look at that, what you just wrote, and then tell me how you feel about it after you
Exactly.
heal yourself. Because, we're on just, and it's nothing great about us, man. We're just on two different planes than most
Who was I
people.
listening to? He's a great speaker. He's still out there. Peterson.
Jordan Peterson? I
God,
love it. Listen to that guy.
that's where I heard it.
Mastery
He
of the
goes,
language.
if you're out there, you've gone through some healing, whatever your healing journey was. He was talking about relevant stuff going on right now in this global awakening through plant medicine. And it was like, it immediately got my attention. I was dialed in. And he goes, you're going to get some pushback because darkness doesn't like the light. Because once the light's there, the darkness is gone for good. And he goes on and on
Yep.
about, he's on that theory, right? And it just nailed me. It nailed everything that I was going through. My hesitation to push the book all the way through. My hesitation to talk about my healing journey. Because everyone's journey is different. But I remember sharing this
Yeah.
journey with as many people as I could the first year after I got back. I couldn't stop talking about it because I could not believe how effective it was at completely
Yeah.
changing course for me, right?
Yeah.
And
Me either.
I got
I
on the
want to tell
horn.
people, like,
I got on the horn
look
with
at me,
people
man.
that
Look
were
where I
really
am right
important to
now.
me, that helped me when I needed it most throughout my career. And I told them what was going on. And he's like, "Are you still sober?" I'm like, "Yes." There's absolutely not a chance on this golden earth from here on forward will I ever touch alcohol. And he goes, "I'm going to go do it." So he took off. I gave him the best advice I could give him. figure out your intentions. All the same shit that I was told, not shit, excuse me.
Yeah.
All the phenomenal sage advice that I got from those two great people that were part of the study and helped me understand the importance and the level of where I was going for this healing. It's the most potent thing on the planet right now that we know of that does what it does. And you can either try to fight through it
100%.
for 28 hours or however long. From beginning to end, it was 30-something hours. Granted, the first 18, 20-something of them, I think it was like 24-ish, 27 of it, I was lock, stock, and bagel. I remember coming out of my mask once to go to the restroom, and then it was back on. Yeah.
Wow.
Like hour 18 or
That's
20 or something, I
crazy.
remember I just pulled it off. I gotta pee! And they helped me get up on a knee and gave me the hospital collector. Did my magic, and I was back at it again. But so as the medicine's doing its thing, I hear the vibration, the sound, the hum of the Ibogaine starts kicking again, and I remember looking over, and I'm seeing something. It's so dark, but I can see it just slowly creep. It's moving in like it was a wheel, and it was rolling itself back into itself and coming back out with the same eyeballs. And it had eagles' heads on it that were staring right at me. They wouldn't change or move their heads around or anything. Anyway, it was crazy.
That is. I just looked it up. It's called gamma band neural
Yes.
synchronization. The hum is believed to be the subjective perception of synchronized neural firing.
It's a frequency.
That's
And when it gets,
yeah. That's
every time I had a really crazy vision, that would creep in. I would feel it come like, and then I start breathing and doing my 4-second hold, exhale. And I'm not kidding. When I finally got my senses back to that reality, I looked up at the MD because I was right in the center. She was sitting above me the whole time. Everyone's hooked up to an EKG the whole time, and your IV is running the whole time. They're pumping good fluids in you with magnesium, keeping your heart stable. Everything's fine. Didn't have any issues at all. But I looked up and I was like, how did I do? Did I pass? You know, as they're pulling all the stuff off of me, and she's like, you stayed with the medicine very well, blah, blah, blah. Your breathing was, she mentioned how I was doing the breathing. So I must have just finally got it stuck in my brain like, okay, dude, this is your lifeline. You got to continue to breathe and stay steady and don't try and fight what's going to happen. But I remember when those wheels came out, man, it was a super powerful, weird feeling, and I could not just stay in it for some reason. And I felt like I was being judged. I felt like I was being looked at, but not criticized. You know, like we're aware, and
just observed.
This is what you're gonna do. Like you're here for a reason. This is what you're here to do. This is what you're gonna do. And I was getting this vibe, like I got to share this. I got to share this. It came in from the right, went away, came back, went from the left side, came in, went away, came straight in at me. That was wild. And then it went away. The feelings and the thoughts that I was having throughout that, it was like it was reshaping things inside of me. Thoughtful suggestions and stuff like that. A lot of back and forth with why would I say things like this? Why was I saying things like that? Saw a lot of introspection things would come in and out of different moments. It was nuts.
Yep.
As soon as I got back,
I said I was
excuse me,
reborn.
after that you do
in a
find me
neurology
you get a
sense.
day of rest, recover. It's like a gray day, I think is what they called it. And you're kind of in and
gray
out
day,
of
yep.
it still. It's got its lasting waning effects. And then we went upstairs, we had breakfast together. Everybody's starting to share their journey a little here and there. Everybody still has this, what the fuck did we just go through, look on their face? And it was just out of this world. And everybody's just waiting for you to share if you feel like sharing. If you have questions, because they're there to help answer those best they can.
Yeah.
Such
I
an
love
awesome
integration,
moment.
man, when they're talking about it, you know? And I think the most beautiful thing is, bro, you start that weekend with like 4 or 5 hardened men. Everybody in that weekend, man, everyone's crying, everyone's hugging, everyone's telling each other they love themselves, everyone's telling them their deepest, darkest secrets. Like you'll have a bond with those guys
Yep.
for the rest of your
Yep.
life.
5-MeO came up. We prepared for that with some earlier meditation that day, and I volunteered to go first because I heard it was pretty wild. And I thought, well, I'm going to go do it now
Oh, yeah.
before I hear everybody else go through it. And Miss Ruby hands me this pipe. She's like, okay, you're going to. I watched her put like what looked like a couple grains of sand in this thing, and I looked back at Juan. I'm like, dude, you need to fill this thing up. I got a lot of baggage I got to clear out. He goes, super powerful, man, super powerful. Just
Yeah, it
that's
is.
plenty. And she gave me the speech, the breakdown. Excuse me. She's like, you're gonna inhale it. Don't stop. When you start, you got to continue until all the vape's gone. It's not a half pull. You got to go or don't do it.
Yep. Feels like you're smoking meth.
I had
man.
never done it
It's
before,
so
and I
weird.
didn't know what to expect really,
Yeah.
except for what they briefed us with. And I said, okay, I'm all in. I'm not going to hesitate. Trust me. But they have guys say that, and then they have a hesitation, and they get like a half-cocked version of what you're supposed to go do, and you don't want to do that.
Yep.
So I'm inhaling, and it stops flowing, and I'm holding, and she's like, hold, 10, 9, 8, down to 1. And at 1, she pulled the mask down, and I was briefed to lay back on the pillows and just relax and let it out. So as soon as I did that, this is what happened. Ah! I'm screaming. I don't know if I am for real, but in my mind I am. I can't breathe. I'm convulsing everywhere, and the only things touching the floor are my ankles and my wrists, like a dying cockroach, like reverse. I'm
Yeah.
screaming because I can't breathe, and I'm trying to get air, and and there is no air at that last split second, and that's when you die. I couldn't understand why the tagline for 5-MeO DMT is you got to die before you can be reborn. You die. And I'll tell you the second dose in just a second. So I die. My last thought is at least you're dying trying to get better. You dumb son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And then because I couldn't get any more air, and then all of a sudden, boom! I break through and I look up and I see Jesus. I'm not the shroud of turn, but it's now not the shroud. It's Jesus. It looks like that. And he was on a ray, and he wasn't on fire, but he was super just golden hued. And I looked up and I'm like, oh, and I hear, are you going to come or are you coming or what? But he didn't move his lips. It was like telepathically I look up and he's
Yeah.
like, but I'm hearing, are you coming or what? And as soon as I heard that, I shot off like a rocket straight into him. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I don't know. I was expecting to hit something, and then blam! I like another explosion of whatever. I'm in another dimension, and all I can see, everything's mauve, pink, and I see arms and legs everywhere doing this. But it's hands and feet up in the sky, but all I see him do is this. It's as far as I can see, every direction. And I'm sitting there like, what? What is this? And then I felt something in my groidal region, and I looked down, and I'm like, I remember those hips. It's my wife filling me full of love. And then boom, I come back to the room, and I looked around, and I cried. I cried hysterically for about 5 minutes. I couldn't stop crying. And it was the most tears ever fallen out of my face. Like puddle of water on the floor. And it wasn't that I wanted to get back to, well, of course I wanted my wife back, but I wasn't thinking of that. I wasn't thinking of anything that I saw or heard. The very thing that was making me cry, as soon as I opened my eyes and I was back, was that if any of those 9 guys that killed themselves after coming back from war did this first, they would still be here.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thought.
Yep.
That's all I thought about. And I didn't have no prep for that thought in my visions or anything, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
It drew that. Whatever the 5-MeO was doing made that the first thought when I came back. And it stuck.
Yep.
It stuck, right? And I looked at Juan and Miss Ruby because we were offered, if you want to do 2, you can do 2 doses. Some people didn't like it stuff, weren't wanting to do another one or whatever. But I sure as heck was. And I said, I want to do another one. How long was I there for? About 20 minutes. I want to go longer. All right, just a little bit. And I got a little bit more, not much. I went through the same exact procedure. And guess what? I go through the same exact panic. I can't breathe. It's like Total Recall. And that split second where you just can't get anything back in and you think you're going to die, I saw the exact same vision, to not go into it all over again. I saw the exact same
Damn.
vision from beginning to end. Nothing's
That's
different.
crazy.
I'm just there longer. And so it was one of those crazy, hard to talk about. I would try and share it with close friends or family, and they're like, "What? I don't get it, bro." Just like they thought I was crazy. Just a hippie now.
Yep.
I hung up my guns and now I just smoke weed and talk weird, share weird stories or whatever. But that wasn't the case. It was not the case.
Yeah.
6 months later, okay, so I get out of there, fly home, and about 6 months goes by, and it's one of our donors for that organization I spoke of earlier, PsyCap. Scott, just want to touch base, see how you been, buddy. Okay, thanks for checking in. He goes, hey man, you know that letter that you left for the guys coming in behind you? I'm like, yeah, is it still there? Did someone take it to the latrine and throw it in the garbage or something? And he's like, no, absolutely not. Everybody's read it. Really? Is it helping? Because I got back, as soon as I got back to that house after doing my journey, I wrote down everything I wished I knew before I got in there. One sheet, hand jammed it, slid it in the little book that the owner of the house had for us to sign our names in, and thought, hey, if you guys like it, leave it in there. If not, whatever. If they want to add to it, feel free. And that was that. But 6 months later, he gives me a heads up. You need to write a book. Everyone has said they're glad they got to read that. You got to put this on paper. You're going to help more people. And I heard that a couple more times. Fast forward about a year, I'm doing hurricane relief with an organization that hires retired spec ops guys to go basically be project managers on these massive sites that get built to go run the line, so the linemen have a place to sleep, recover, feed, and then yes, the command post, big circus tent, times 2,000 with living pods, shit shower. I mean, it's a crazy. I had no idea that this industry was even there, but it's what falls under when FEMA gets the money. There's these organizations that pop up overnight to get the power back up. Yep. So I'm in there doing that. Hurricane Florence down in Louisiana a year or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a picture and a guy's name that I was supposed to link up with. My first gig for this company, 1099 gig, right? Which helps my family, 4 daughters and a son. I need every extra cent. There's always something going on. I find this guy. He's back by his truck. His name's Drew. I'm like, hey, man, are you Drew Knight? Yes, sir, that's me. He's a stoic retired Marine colonel. And I knew all this, so I'm being very respectful. There's only so many Marine colonels, right? It's a thing. Right. If you don't know, there's only so many Marine colonels at any given time. So when you find one, they're very top-notch. And this dude's stand-up guy. Yeah. But I could tell he looked upset about something. Like something was really just eating him up. He was in such deep, shitty pain. Something was going on. And it was, I'm making it sound like he was just a lost cause, but he was a superstar. I could just tell there was something going on. And he was sitting there working on a letter, actually, come to find out. And I said, well, I'm Scott, and what do you need me to do? He's like, okay, well, just drop your stuff over there, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, before you even finish talking, I go, man, something's bothering you. What is it? And he goes, excuse me? I go, have you ever heard of Ibogaine? He goes, yes, I have actually. I just took it, and I can't tell you how or why or what, but I can tell something's bothering you, and I think Ibogaine will help you. And I started going on my tirade about how this thing is just amazing, and I didn't know anything about it, and I'm telling him about the study. Long story short, we're hugging and crying like after the second night. He's bearing his soul. He can't believe this guy showed up out of nowhere and got him to loosen up and at least share his pain, right? Yep. So I convinced him to convince his wife to let him go down and do this magic, and I lined him up with one of the donors to help because it's not cheap. And he got through the vetting process and got pre-screening all out of the way. He got the blessing and went down there and went through the medicine. He came back, and he's doing the same thing that I was doing the first year back, like just fixing everything, you know, he's got two daughters. I think they're in college or about to start college, and his wife's still working for high level stuff. So he's been so focused on trying to be successful at all these other things, he was turning his mind off from household six, kind of in a way, right? And he could not figure out why, that the connections weren't there with his girls and stuff like that. Not at a level that would cause divorce or whatever, but he was just trying to figure out what's missing, what have I changed, this, that, and the other. And he figured all that out down in Ambio. And his teacher, his Iboga, was the hand. So in his visions, when he didn't do what was coming, the hand would give him a stern look, and then he said it felt like a blade, like a sword, was being drawn out of his gut. Like, and he would freak out and, okay, I'll do it, I'm sorry, and he would say, I'm sorry, I'll do it. And whatever he was working out got worked out that way. So, I mean, everyone's journey is different. Some guys have said they didn't really see a lot of things, but most people that I've spoken with that had real good visions, it was some kind of spirituality connection, and they took care of long, like, grief things with their family members or loved ones. I didn't have any war issues. I wasn't replaying any of that. It was deeper than, it was just hard to explain. Very
soul level shit, man. Yeah, and absolutely. Then it's
pushing through all that good stuff. I came back. I started to, after the first year, I started really figuring out where I could settle in with these new things, and I could quit trying to talk about it and just live. And if someone's interested, they know I've been in that world for a little bit, and I can give them whatever information I have and steer them in a direction to go get some healing. Because back before, I mean, there was no study on the board. No one knew what we were doing, really. And there was Americans for Ibogaine didn't exist. There was vets. There was the SOC-F folks. There was Warrior Health Foundation, and there was the Brain Performance Center. Those are the only people I knew. And then these benevolent, awesome folks that were letting us use their house and vehicles, and bringing us meals, taking us out to dinner, keeping us feeling the brotherhood without the alcohol, without the shenanigans, making sure that the study could get the good feedback. And that January 24th release of our information was pretty bold stuff. I can send you the write-up that came out. I don't know if you've seen it or not.
No, that'd be very cool to read, actually.
The suicide ideation, I mean, we were getting hit with every study or every test that they have out there to test your ability to put up with shit or not, your PTSD gauge. I don't know what the name of it is actually called, but it's that you want to sit in the corner and draw with crayons and think about killing the bad guys, or do you want to go outside and grow a tree? Those types of questions. Followed by your suicide ideation and some TBI type stuff. But they did a very good job with the record keeping, and we just got word that we have access to all of that stuff. So I'm going to request my version, or not my version, but my records, results, file, and all that.
Yep.
And when I get it, I'm sharing it with everybody. I'll send you whatever my results were. I feel like,
please.
I feel like
you
100%
send it, brothers.
Livable, enjoyable. I know my limits. I know where to stay, where I can best help those around me. I don't care about winning anything. I just want to share what happened, why I got so bad with the shit I was trying to handle after getting out, the PTSD, the struggle with the alcohol. I would probably be divorced again. I could not figure out what I was doing wrong to not want to work through shit. There's.
Yeah, me either. I was an asshole. My wife's the best, man. It's my second marriage as well. And we are fantastic now, but, Mike was not on a good path.
Yeah,
being
I was
a
just
dick.
an asshole.
and things
Now
have
I'm a
changed.
lot more gracious. And when she's not having a good day, I don't
Yep.
snap back at her. I try not to elevate it more than she's a woman. She gave birth twice. She's gonna have good and bad days, and I don't need to make them worse. Because I think I used to just
Yeah,
make them worse. Because everything I
exactly.
would take's, oh my God, what are you mad at me about? Not thinking about it's that time of them.
Yeah,
No, it's
it's
not.
not about
It has
you.
nothing to do
You
with
know what I
me
mean?
at
Yeah,
all.
exactly. Everyone's going through shit, and that's one thing you realize. You have a lot more empathy for everyone. So, brother, it's been 2 hours
Yeah,
and
we're
ten
gonna have to
minutes. I
cut
can't
it.
believe it. Time has flown. No, no, I said it, man. This whole thing, I don't
Oh,
edit
okay.
anything, so the whole interview stays in its
Excellent.
entirety. But yeah, it's been fantastic speaking to you. So if anyone wants to get in touch with you, please tell them how to do so. All the links will be in the bio
Okay.
as well.
TheOG2U.com is going to be my up and running site just for the book for pre-orders of people that are interested and want to know what's coming up. And it's a memoir based basically on um, the route that got me to the depths of my descent, where I was at mentally and physically before the angels came about and offered me a study to be a part of that provided me access to a whole host of different modalities, ending with Ibogaine and 5-MeO DMT, which incinerated the old version of myself that was surrounded by all the hate and anger and pain of 11 tours and, the woe is me, pity me, sadness that I was living in was completely and utterly destroyed, incinerated to the point where I'm I'm ashamed that I let myself get to such a sad state of self-imposed exile. And now I enjoy saving, and I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding, but instead of smashing an ant, I'll pick it up and throw it out in the front yard. Hey, it's gonna pollinate something, whatever.
It's so funny. So that I went to kill a bee the other
Yeah,
day. I'm like, no,
just
man,
let
it's a
it. I
living
mean, if
being.
it's
Why are you doing
attacking
that?
my
Like,
kids trying to sting
yeah,
everybody, I'll shoot it
yeah,
like a
yeah.
laser.
Obviously, yeah,
But it's
yeah.
not.
But short of that, why kill it?
Yeah.
It's
It
it's
turns the
something
switch
full of life
off that
itself.
you want to turn off, but you desperately want
Yep.
off that you cannot figure out how to do. It turns it off.
Yeah.
And it opens up a door for you to start figuring out how you want to integrate the gift that was given to you by having so much clarity. You can write a book.
Yep.
I never thought I'd write a book.
I did.
I never
Neither did I.
thought, but I mean,
Sitting here.
all that I thought about was how can I get this information out to the most amount of people in the shortest amount of time? And it
Yeah.
wasn't doing
Me
speaking
too.
engagements around my little neighborhood because I tried that. It wasn't, you know, sending emails to all my buddies out there and one of them will respond and then I'm just trying to say the same story over and over again about how I saw all this crazy stuff and it just led to me making better decisions. Nothing I was saying was making a lot of sense. But as I
Yeah.
started to write, it all started making a lot more sense. And I started going down the rabbit hole with Jungian theory, and that all started making sense to me. I didn't realize there's the shadow, the self, the ego. I mean, everyone knows your ego, but I didn't know the detailed ego. I didn't know the breakdown of what ego is. I didn't know the ego starts when you're old enough to do this and realize you're touching your nose with your index finger. At that age is when your
Yep.
ego starts to be built.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
amazing how
And
young
so
you are when
I
things start
started putting
happening.
that together and bridging the gap of the unknown. And the unknown for the operator in my world was how to get back to the guy I was before I had to become the guy I became. And I never would have understood how to get there. I never would have even dreamt of seeing what it would be like to get there had I not gone down to Ambio and had the
Yeah.
benefit of Ibogaine and 5-MeO treatment. That's what
Yep.
it did for me. It
Yeah.
didn't plant everything in me. Everything's already everything's
No,
there,
everything's
already
in you.
there, ready to be utilized, but
Yeah.
your brain's damaged
It
and your
allows you to
thoughts
see
are,
things
yeah,
differently
you're
from a different
fractured.
perspective.
And the ibogaine and the 5-MeO, the ibogaine unfractures you, and then the 5-MeO fills your whole entirety with love. I
Yeah.
love it.
It's amazing. And it sounds, if you guys are watching, it sounds kind of funny, but I promise you, if you journey with these medicines, you know exactly what we're talking about. And after your life changes, hit one of us up and tell us how much it changed, because it's the biggest miracle I've ever experienced in God's green earth. And Ibogaine is in, I think, 25 days for me, so I'm going to change my life once again, and I cannot wait to do so.
You can also,
Scott, it's
yes,
been
Mike,
unbelievable.
you can also catch me on Instagram. I'm
Talking.
posting most of my videos and updates on the book at OG2U official. And leave comments. I always respond back, and share it with friends of yours that you know could use the unorthodox version of healing, the stuff you're not going to read about, the stuff that you hear about through veteran voices of success, and that's how we can get.
And it doesn't have to be just first responders or veterans. Everyone goes through trauma in their lives. So anyone that you know is struggling, yeah, exactly. So the revolution is coming. These things are going to be, I don't want to say mainstream, but it's going to be mainstream.
Can't
eventually.
wait. We also, one last plug,
absolutely.
Almost forgot. We started up a nonprofit throughout Florida. It's called Florida for Ibogaine. We've had several meetings, one being with Americans for Ibogaine. They do support us with, information that's been blessed off through their efforts in Texas and elsewhere. So that's saving us a lot of time and money. They're giving us a lot of recommendations on how to proceed further with our local legislative branch. We've already spoken with the Orlando VA director of research and the director for the hospital. They didn't need to hear testimony. They're already on board. They want to be a facility that holds the study in addition to wherever the heck, they're going to have to scatter it about throughout the entire state. But they definitely are on board. Two of our advocates in the Orlando area got to have a meeting with them and go see their facility and everything. It's already set up, ready to go. And the 20th of this month, I'm going to go talk to Congressman Jimmy Petronis's director, Miss Bobo, in Pensacola at their office about sitting down with, explaining to her my healing journey and the process that I went through with the study, and then hopefully get FaceTime with Congressman Petronis and have him lead the way for a bill next year for Florida to be able to do a study with veterans, first responders, law enforcement, firefighters.
Awesome. Hey, if you want to, I'll put you in touch if you want. I don't know if you have met or heard of Danny Alvarez, Florida rep as well, state rep, Army veteran. He's on my podcast. He's going to be on again, I think in March, and he's very forward thinking with the psychedelics as well. So, anything you ever need from me, brother, it's yours. Just absolutely ask it.
Appreciate you, Mike Morgan.
So
you're
absolutely,
you're a good
Scott
man.
Roessler.
I can't wait to have dinner with you someday.
Absolutely, brother. Can't wait. Pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for being on. It's an honor. And guys, again, all the links will be in the bio. If you like what you saw, please hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you again soon.
Order, shot fire, officer down, shot fire, officer down. Got a city officer down, shot fire.
223, be advised, we have a visual on enemy paratroopers in grid Papa uniforms.
Welcome to the Resilient Warrior Nation, a podcast dedicated to inspiring hope and healing for first responders, military veterans, and anyone facing PTSD and trauma